Chapter 3064. Exploding Star. Lu Ming transformed into a green-armored ancient god. He did not hold back at all. He exerted all his strength. A terrifying spear gleam burst forth and then exploded. Rumble. The destructive power bombarded the light screen of the formation, but the formation only trembled a little before returning to normal. This kid is actually so powerful. Deng Xiao was shocked when he saw Lu Ming's attack. He was secretly glad that he did not attack Lu Ming directly. Instead, he brought Lu Ming to the stone tablet and trapped Lu Ming with the yin-yang formation. However, he immediately laughed again. He, kid, don't waste your energy. You can't break this formation with brute force. Break. Lu Ming was too lazy to pay attention to his opponent and continued to attack. He must break this formation and save Qiu Yu. Otherwise, Qiu Yu would be possessed. Lu Ming absolutely could not let such a thing happen. Boom. 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 Lu Ming launched a frenzied attack. Streaks of terrifying spear gleams bombarded the light screen, but it was useless. No matter how Lu Ming attacked, the light screen only trembled slightly and was fine. No matter how strong the bombardment was, it was the same. It could not be broken at all. After a while, Lu Ming stopped and his eyes were extremely gloomy. Old Liang, aren't you able to sense the energy of the formation? Why didn't you inform me in advance when that old man brought me in? Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the measuring word incantation. Last time, when they were ambushed, the measuring word incantation had sensed the formation set up by the other party in advance. Why didn't he warn him this time? If he had been warned in advance, Lu Ming would have been alert and would not have been trapped by the formation. Kid, do you think I'm the guy with the word formation? I can sense any formation. I could sense it last time because the formation set up by the other party was a killing formation. Moreover, it was newly set up and its energy was surging. That's why I could sense it. This formation is a trapping formation. Its energy is extremely mild, especially since it has been set up for many years. If it is not activated normally, there will be no energy reaction. How can I sense it? The measuring word incantation shouted unhappily. Lu Ming was speechless. He could not blame the measuring word incantation. I saw that there was a formation here before. At this moment, another voice sounded in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. That voice was clearly the voice of the Vitality Stone Spirit. Why didn't you remind me? Lu Ming asked. Do I need to remind you? As the owner of the Vitality Stone, if he couldn't even solve such a small problem, how could he compete with other competitors in the future? How can one wield a complete life spirit vitality stone and be called an overlord of the universe? The spirit asked. Lu Ming was stunned by the question and he gritted his teeth. This old guy deliberately did not remind him. Lu Ming wished he could step on his face. Lu Ming gritted his teeth. Do you have any way to get out? Lu Ming asked. No. The spirit and the measuring word incantation said in unison. Lu Ming almost vomited blood. Ha, kid, are you desperate now? I've said that you can't get out. Even a peak divine king can't break this formation by force. You can only get out with a special method. Deng Xiao burst out laughing. He felt great at the sight of Lu Ming being dealt a blow. Special method? Lu Ming whispered. Why? What special method do you want to know? Alright, I'll tell you. Deng Xiao smiled and stared at the stone tablet. The method to break this formation is the secret technique on the stone tablet, the yin-yang god eyes. As long as you cultivate the yin-yang god eyes, you can easily break this yin-yang formation. Secret technique, the yin-yang god eyes. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he looked at the stone tablet. However, I have to remind you that there are conditions to cultivate the yin-yang god eyes. Two people have to control two completely opposite divine grade divine forces and be connected in mind to succeed. Moreover, even if you meet the conditions, you won't be able to comprehend it without at least 100 years. What do you think of this condition? It's simple, right? Ha ha ha. Deng Xiao laughed crazily at the end of his sentence. It was impossible for Lu Ming to fulfill this condition. In order to cultivate the yin-yang god eye, one would need two completely opposite types of divine-grade divine powers. This required two people who were of the same mind. Even so, it would take at least 100 years to comprehend it even if one's talent was amazing. In 100 years, Autumn Moon would have been taken over by his master. Therefore, Deng Xiao had mentioned this condition because he wasn't afraid that Lu Ming would succeed. He had said it specifically to anger Lu Ming. He knew the method but couldn't cultivate it. He wanted to see how desperate Lu Ming would be. However, he was disappointed. Lu Ming's face didn't show any signs of despair. Instead, his eyes lit up as if he had seen the light of hope. Two completely opposite divine-grade divine forces. Lu Ming controlled the Sun Divine Force and the Sun Divine Force. Weren't they two completely opposite divine-grade divine forces? One was yang and one was yin. One was extreme yang and the other was extreme yin. Others needed two people to control two different divine forces, but Lu Ming could do it alone. Moreover, they had to be connected in mind. Even if two people were connected in mind, how could one person be connected? As long as Lu Ming could comprehend it before Autumn Moon was taken over, he would be able to break free and save Autumn Moon. 8 years. According to Deng Xiao, the stone eye would be able to successfully take over his body in 8 years. Lu Ming had to succeed in comprehending it within 8 years. Lu Ming ignored Deng Xiao and sat cross-legged under the stone tablet. He began to study the runes on the tablet. Humph, you want to comprehend the yin-yang god eye? Dream on. Deng Xiao laughed disdainfully. He didn't believe that Lu Ming could comprehend it. First of all, he needed two completely opposite divine-grade divine forces. Lu Ming couldn't have them. He thought that Lu Ming was desperate and knew that he couldn't get out, so he was just putting on an act for him to see. Wait patiently. When my master succeeds in taking over your body, he will kill you. Deng Xiao sneered and retreated to the side to monitor Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked at the runes on the stone tablet wholeheartedly. The stone tablet was covered with mysterious runes that intertwined with each other to form a mysterious pattern. Lu Ming looked at it for a while and felt dizzy. Just as Deng Xiao said, even if one met the requirements and had exceptional talent, it wasn't easy to comprehend the yin-yang god eye. It was too difficult. It was harder to cultivate than any of Lu Ming's secret skills. After resting for a while, Lu Ming continued to comprehend it. Time flew, and a few months passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming finally understood something. Chapter 3065. After a few months of comprehension, Lu Ming finally had an idea of what was going on. The yin-yang god eyes was based on two things. The first was the two completely opposite divine powers. For example, extreme yin and extreme cold, darkness and light, or even a combination of fast and slow, as long as the two opposite divine powers work together. The second was the runes on the stone tablet. When the two opposite divine powers worked together with the runes, they could evolve into endless changes in his eyes and evolve into terrifying killing moves. However, these runes were too complicated, especially the ones that formed the yin-yang god eyes. The more Lu Ming looked at them, the more he felt that there were endless changes in them. Mysterious, it's really mysterious. Lu Ming exclaimed. However, this aroused Lu Ming's competitive spirit even more. Next, Lu Ming focused even more on comprehending. Time passed, day by day, month by month. Time flew by, and almost 4 years had passed. At this moment, 10 years had passed since Lu Ming and the others entered Xingyue ancient city. All these years, Lu Ming had been sitting cross-legged under the stone tablet, not moving at all. On this day, Lu Ming, who had been closing his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes. There were no eyeballs in his eyes at all. There were only two colors in his eyes. On the left, it was dark like an abyss. On the right, it was snow-white and emitted a holy light. In the next moment, dense runes flashed continuously in Lu Ming's eyes. After a long while, they disappeared. Lu Ming's eyes also returned to normal. It's been almost 4 years, and I've finally mastered it. Lu Ming muttered. The difficulty of cultivating this yin-yang god eyes was beyond Lu Ming's imagination. Given Lu Ming's talent, regardless of whether he was cultivating other secret skills or divine skills, his speed was astonishingly fast and far surpassed that of ordinary people. However, it took him almost 4 years to cultivate this kind of secret skill at the entry level. Now that I've mastered it, I should be able to leave this formation. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes filled with a cold murderous intent. Another 4 years had passed. Hopefully, the mid-autumn moon could hold on. Lu Ming slowly got up and walked out of the array. Oh my, after sitting here for 4 years, there's finally some movement? Don't tell me you want to kneel and beg for mercy? Deng Xiu mocked when he saw Lu Ming stand up. This time, I'll kill you. Lu Ming said coldly. What? Kill me? Ha ha ha, you've been sitting there for 4 years. Have you lost your mind? If you want to kill me, can you come out? Why don't you come out first? Ha ha ha. Deng Xiu laughed mockingly, but his laughter became softer and softer. In the end, his laughter got stuck in his throat and he couldn't laugh anymore. His huge eye was filled with disbelief. This was because Lu Ming's eyes had undergone a major change. Countless runes appeared in his eyes, interweaving into a strange pattern. Afterward, in the void in front of Lu Ming, many runes appeared out of thin air. These runes were like threads, intertwining with each other and flying towards the light screen formed by the formation. Chi-chi, these runes collided with the light screen of the formation, creating a sizzling sound. Then, the light screen was cut open, forming a door. The formation was broken. Lu Ming took a step forward and was out of the formation. At this moment, Deng Xiu stared at Lu Ming as if he had seen a ghost. He shouted in disbelief, Yin-yang god eyes. How could you have mastered Yin-yang god eyes? This is impossible. This is impossible, Deng Xiu shouted like a madman. This was completely beyond his comprehension. Nothing is impossible when it comes to me. Lu Ming said coldly. Deng Xiu was shocked and quickly retreated. Lu Ming was about to give chase when he suddenly staggered and almost fell. At the same time, he felt a stabbing pain in his eyes and 2 streams of blood flowed out. I didn't expect that using the yin-yang god eyes would put such a huge burden on my body and eyes. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. When he used the yin-yang god eyes to break the formation, Lu Ming's divine power was depleted. He felt weak and his eyes were severely injured. Although the yin-yang god eyes was powerful, it had a high requirement to use it. The yin-yang god eyes are divided into yin-yang and yang-yang. If I use them separately, it might be better. However, using both at the same time is too much of a burden. I have to be careful in the future. Lu Ming thought to himself. Men, kill this brat for me. At this moment, Deng Xiu finally reacted and yelled. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as Deng Xiu's voice fell, figures rushed out from all directions. These figures all had huge eyes, and they looked exactly like Deng Xiu. It was very disgusting. Clearly, they were the same as Deng Xiu. They were all formed from his master's minced flesh. Kill! Kill this brat! These eyeballs roared loudly. Beams of divine light shot out from their eyes and charged toward Lu Ming. Ice chains. At this moment, the divine power in the quantum formula surged out and Lu Ming's body was filled with divine power. Then, 9 ice chains flew out and blocked in front of Lu Ming. The divine light bombarded the ice chains, but they were all blocked by the ice chains. That's all there is to it. Then, go to hell. Lu Ming's cold voice could be heard. After exchanging blows, Lu Ming discovered that the power of these eyeballs was ordinary. The most powerful one was only a half-step divine king. Lu Ming used the ancient god body and turned into a green-armored ancient god. He shook his long spear and shot out beams of spear light towards the eyeballs. Bam! 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 These eyeballs were pierced by the spear light and exploded. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, dozens of eyeballs were killed. Moon slash. Then, Lu Ming used the moon slash again. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed out and killed a large number of eyeballs. No wonder you didn't dare to attack me directly. Instead, you trapped me in a formation. Your strength is average. Lu Ming had a thought. He held the long spear in his hand and charged toward the group of eyeballs, killing them all. In fact, it was normal. These eyeballs were their owners in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era when they fought with the owner of the cave mansion. The owner of the cave mansion destroyed their bodies and left behind some flesh and blood. After countless years, they evolved into evil creatures. No matter how strong their owners were, some of the flesh and blood that had been destroyed had lost a lot of spirituality after so many years. Naturally, the creatures they evolved into would not be that strong. Soon, hundreds of eyeballs were killed by Lu Ming. Bam! Lu Ming stepped out and closed in on Deng Xiu. Brat, you are courting death. Deng Xiu shouted in horror. He turned around and fled towards one of the many passages. So it's this passage. Saves me the trouble of looking for it. Lu Ming sneered. The passage that Deng Xiu escaped through was probably the place where Qiu Autumn Moon and his owner were. Deng Xiu was afraid and would most likely escape to his owner. Chapter 3066. Deng Xiu fled in front while Lu Ming chased after him leisurely. Along the way, those eyeball monsters kept attacking Lu Ming, but they were all easily killed by Lu Ming. Not long after, they went through a few passages and came to a bronze door. Master, save me, save me. Deng Xiu screamed in horror and pushed the bronze door with all his might. Gotcha. The bronze door was opened. The moment the bronze door was opened, Lu Ming saw the scene behind the door. Behind the door was a stone room. In the middle of the stone room, a young lady was sitting cross-legged. It was Autumn Moon. From a distance, Lu Ming could see that Autumn Moon's face revealed a trace of pain. She seemed to be struggling to hold on. Her body was covered with a layer of 9-colored divine light. However, compared to a few years ago, the 9-colored divine light on Autumn Moon's body seemed to have dimmed a lot. On top of Autumn Moon's head, there was an eyeball with a diameter of a few meters. It was flickering with a black radiance and was constantly approaching Autumn Moon. Seeing this scene, Lu Ming was slightly relieved. At least, Autumn Moon was still holding on and had not been taken over by the other party. However, the anger in Lu Ming's heart burned fiercely. Master, save me. Deng Xiu screamed and wanted to rush towards the stone eyeball. Moon slaying. Lu Ming said coldly. His long spear slashed down and a crescent-shaped spear light slashed towards Deng Xiu. Deng Xiu's cultivation was only equivalent to an ordinary half-step divine king. He could not block Lu Ming's attack. The spear light slashed through and Deng Xiu screamed miserably as he was killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming strode towards the door. Behind the door was a huge stone room. However, it was in a mess. The walls of the stone room were filled with cracks and dents. It seemed like a great battle had taken place here. The buildings here were filled with runes and were incomparably tough. The strength of those who could fill the walls with cracks and dents was definitely astonishing. This was most likely left behind by the Great War at the beginning of the Heavenly Palace era. Lu Ming glanced around and found nothing out of the ordinary. Then, he strode toward the mid-autumn moon. Get lost, brat. At this moment, the stone eyeball above Autumn Moon's head let out a loud roar. You're the one who should get lost. Lu Ming coldly shouted, his long spear swept out, sweeping towards the stone bead. You're courting death. The stone bead let out a loud cry. Then, a beam of divine light shot out from the stone eyeball and blasted towards Lu Ming. Clang! The divine light bombarded the long spear, causing it to vibrate violently. Lu Ming felt a terrifying power coming from the spear, and his body involuntarily trembled as he retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! Following that, divine light continuously shot out from the stone eyeball. In the blink of an eye, it had shot out dozens of beams of divine light. Space whistled as dozens of divine lights shot towards Lu Ming. Moon slaying, his divine power surged wildly. Lu Ming continuously cast the moon-slaying technique for more than 10 times. More than 10 crescent-shaped spear gleams slashed out, blocking the dozens of divine lights. Lu Ming didn't dare to use the exploding star technique. Exploding star was an indiscriminate attack. If he used it, it would envelop the mid-autumn moon as well. A 5th-level celestial god with such strength. Wait a minute, you have the origin ancient words in your body. They are the words battle and quantity. Ha ha ha, the heavens are really helping me. Once I possess this girl and combine the 2 origin ancient words, this heavenly lord will definitely regain his glory. No, I might even become stronger. The stone eyeball started to let out a surprised sound, then it laughed as if it was in ecstasy. Lu Ming was shocked. This stone eyeball actually saw through the 2 origin ancient characters in his body right away. In the past, Lu Ming had met many divine kings, but none of them could see the ancient origin words in his body. Because the ancient origin words could hide themselves, outsiders couldn't see them at all. This stone eyeball was incredible. I must destroy this eyeball. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. Then, he waved his spear and kept attacking the stone eyeball. Kid, go to hell. A cold voice came out from the stone eyeball. It vibrated slightly as if it was preparing for a more terrifying attack. But then, mid-autumn moon shouted and the 9-colored divine light on her body suddenly became bright. A 9-colored heart could be vaguely seen beating in her heart. The sacred heart of 9 orifices. Apparently, mid-autumn moon had also noticed Lu Ming. When the stone eyeball was distracted to attack Lu Ming, she also launched a counterattack. Damn it! The stone eyeball let out a roar. It had to divert more energy to deal with mid-autumn moon and less energy to deal with Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! In the stone chamber, the rumbling continued. Lu Ming kept attacking and finally got close to the stone eyeball. Dong! Finally, Lu Ming seized the opportunity and hit the stone eyeball with his spear. The stone eyeball shook violently, but nothing happened. Lu Ming didn't break it. Kid, you can't break my defense. Although so many years have passed and my strength is less than 1 billion of my peak, my defense is still there. You can't break it, ha ha ha. The stone eyeball laughed. Is that so? Then I'll pull you apart. Lu Ming said coldly. Then, 9 ice chains flew out and wrapped around the stone eyeball. A layer of ice crystals appeared on the stone eyeball, trying to freeze it. Get lost. The stone eyeball roared and black divine light rushed out from its surface. The ice crystals exploded one after another. The black divine light hit the ice chains. The ice chains shook violently and cracks appeared on some of the ice chains. The ice chains couldn't withstand it anymore. Come here. Lu Ming shouted and desperately pulled the ice chains, trying to pull the stone eyeball away from Autumn Moon's head. As long as the stone eyeball was pulled away, Autumn Moon would be saved. Even if they couldn't kill the stone eyeball, they could still escape. Pung! Pung! Under the constant assault of the stone eyeball's divine light, 2 of the ice chains were finally broken. You can't pull me away. The stone eyeball roared. Is that so? Lu Ming's eyes were calm. With a wave of his hand, 2 more ice chains flew out and wrapped around the stone eyeball. Next, as long as the ice chains broke, Lu Ming would immediately condense them. Lu Ming had plenty of divine power to waste. A moment later, the stone eyeball was finally pulled away by Lu Ming. After being pulled away a little, Autumn Moon immediately seized the opportunity to resist. "Kid, you're courting death. You're courting death. Don't think that I, the Lord of Heaven, have no way to deal with you. Die." A furious roar came from within the stone eyeball. Then, a beam of light flew out from within the stone eyeball. When the beam of light flew out, it turned into a figure. It was a middle-aged man wearing ancient armor. The most peculiar thing about him was his eyes. They were extremely bright, like 2 suns. Chapter 3067. The middle-aged man was obviously the original form of the stone eyeball. At this moment, he was staring at Lu Ming furiously and roaring, "Kid, I'll let you experience the God-destroying light of this Lord Heaven. It's your honor to die under the God-destroying light." As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man turned into a ray of divine light and rushed towards Lu Ming, enveloping Lu Ming in divine light. As soon as he was enveloped by the divine light, Lu Ming felt goosebumps all over his body. He felt a great sense of danger. Sure enough, in the next moment, Lu Ming felt waves of piercing pain all over his body. The light seemed to be melting his body. "Block it!" Lu Ming roared in his heart. He unleashed all his divine power and used the 9 layers golden armor to cover his body to block the divine light. However, the 9 layers golden armor was useless. Chi, under the divine light, the 9 layers golden armor emitted a sizzling sound, as if ice and snow had met fire and was constantly melting. "Kid, you actually control so many types of divine power? Amazing, really amazing." The stone eyeball's voice sounded again, full of surprise. Obviously, the other party didn't know about the existence of the universe myriad Dao technique. However, at this moment, Lu Ming didn't have the time to think about it. He only wanted to block the divine light because it was too terrifying. It constantly penetrated Lu Ming's 9 layers golden armor and enveloped Lu Ming's body. As soon as the divine light touched Lu Ming's skin, Lu Ming's body felt as if it was being burned by fire. A piercing pain spread all over his body. Lu Ming was even horrified to find that wherever the divine light touched, Lu Ming's flesh and blood melted like ice and snow. This scene was extremely terrifying. If this continued, Lu Ming's body would be melted by the divine light. The other party called this divine light the God-destroying light. It was indeed terrifying. The other party's strength was less than 1,000,000,000,000 of his peak, but it still had such amazing power. Ice chains. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He recalled the frost shackles and wrapped them around his body. He wanted to use the frost shackles to block the attack of the God-slaying light. However, the ice shackles were unable to withstand the God-destroying light. Under the God-destroying light, the ice shackles rapidly melted. "Old Liang, do you have a way to absorb this divine light?" At the critical moment, Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the measuring formula. "There's nothing I can do about it. This is the light of destruction, and the other party is an ancient existence. His willpower is too strong. How can I possibly absorb the power that he cultivated? Unless your cultivation level is comparable to his, then I'll be able to unleash its power," the quantifying formula said. Lu Ming was speechless and placed his hopes on the rock spirit. "Old man, do you have any ideas? If you don't help me this time, I'm going to die." Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the rock spirit. "I'm just an incomplete rock spirit. What can I do? Moreover, the other party is the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. The God-destroying light of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven is one of the most terrifying forces in the world. Sigh, it seems that I'm too unlucky. I just acknowledged you as my master and you're going to die." Sigh, the rock spirit heaved a long sigh. Lu Ming was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Not only did the old man refuse to help, but he even cursed him. Lu Ming wished he could stomp on the old man. Asterisk sizzle, asterisk at this moment, more and more god-destroying light touched Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming discovered that his flesh was melting. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before Lu Ming was completely melted by the god-destroying light. Unfortunately, Lu Ming couldn't do anything about it. Ha ha ha, boy, you're really my lucky star. You actually brought me 2 origin ancient characters. Opportunity, a great opportunity. The other party laughed and became more and more excited. On the other hand, Lu Ming became more and more anxious. Could it be that he and Autumn Moon were going to die here today? Let's fight. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and decided to try burning the ancient god's heart. It was better than dying here. Although Lu Ming felt that it might not be useful even if he burned the ancient god's heart. The god-destroying light was too strange. But he had to give it a try. However, before burning the ancient god's heart, Lu Ming had to take out the purple copper coffin. The last time Lu Ming burned the ancient god's heart, it was because of the purple copper coffin that he recovered. If burning the ancient god's heart could deal with the stone eyeball, maybe he could recover with the help of the purple copper coffin? He had to give it a try, right? Lu Ming's mind stirred and the purple copper coffin flew out from the frightening feather painting. But just as the purple copper coffin flew out, something strange happened. The purple copper coffin suddenly shone brightly and flew out from between Lu Ming's eyebrows, floating above Lu Ming's head. Crack! The lid of the purple copper coffin opened by itself, revealing a gap. A terrifying and unimaginable aura spread out from the gap of the coffin lid. Compared to this aura, Lu Ming felt that he was just a speck of dust. No, the strongest divine king that Lu Ming had met was just a speck of dust in front of this aura. Lu Ming seemed to see the great battle of the ancient gods through the lid of the purple copper coffin. Ah, why do you have such a thing? Why do you have such a thing? At this moment, the divine Eye Lord of Heaven suddenly screamed. His voice was filled with endless horror and fear. He seemed to recognize the purple copper coffin. Buzz! The aura of the purple copper coffin enveloped Lu Ming's body. The light of destruction on Lu Ming's body began to vibrate violently. Then, it left Lu Ming's body and turned into a figure again. It was the middle-aged man who called himself the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. The middle-aged man's face was filled with endless horror and disbelief. How could such a legendary thing appear on your body? Impossible, impossible. The Divine Eye Lord of Heaven roared and tried to escape. However, there seemed to be a force of attraction from the purple copper coffin that firmly locked onto the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. No matter how the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven struggled, it was useless. He was flying toward the gap of the purple copper coffin. No, 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 the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven roared in horror and struggled madly, but it was useless. After a few breaths, the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven was completely sucked into the purple copper coffin. After the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven was sucked in, the purple copper coffin closed automatically. All the aura disappeared and the purple copper coffin returned to its simple and unadorned appearance. Then, it fell and pressed down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He quickly controlled the frightening feather painting and sucked the purple copper coffin into it. Phew! Lu Ming let out a long sigh as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. This time, it was really thrilling. He did not expect the purple copper coffin to work at the critical moment and suck the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven in. Until now, Lu Ming was still a little stunned. Everything had changed too quickly. After a long while, Lu Ming recovered and walked toward the autumn moon. At this moment, the autumn moon shouted softly, "Keep." Then, the 9-colored divine light on the autumn moon shone brightly and covered the stone eyeball. The stone eyeball began to shrink and flew toward the autumn moon's body. Chapter 3068. The 9-colored divine light shrouded the stone eyeball. The stone eyeball began to shrink and flew toward Xiao Autumn Moon's body. Dream little talk star. Lu Ming was shocked and was about to step forward to stop it. Master, don't act rashly. This is a great opportunity for this girl. Shi Ling's voice sounded. Great opportunity? Lu Ming was puzzled. He stopped in his tracks. Yes, this stone eyeball can be said to be transformed from one of the eyes of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. It contains all the inheritance of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. Now that the remnant soul of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven has been completely destroyed, this stone eyeball will be absorbed and integrated by this girl. This girl will obtain the inheritance of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. This is the inheritance of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. This girl also has the 9 apertures sacred heart. Her future achievements will be limitless. She will be a capable assistant of Master. Shi Ling explained. Lu Ming was delighted. The soul of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven had been taken away by the purple copper coffin. Now, this stone eyeball was equivalent to a treasure that could be absorbed and refined. Chiu Autumn Moon was going to refine this stone eyeball and obtain the inheritance of the other party. By the way, what's the background of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven? Lu Ming asked. His background is amazing. How many people in the primitive universe dare to call themselves the Lord of Heaven? Every one of them is an overlord in the world. Shi Ling said. In the end, you didn't say anything about the other party's background. Lu Ming curled his lips. The Heavenly Palace. Do you know about it? Shi Ling asked. The Heavenly Palace. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and a trace of shock flashed in his eyes. Is he from the Heavenly Palace? Yes, the title of the Lord of Heaven is only in the Heavenly Palace. Every Lord of Heaven is a giant in the Heavenly Palace. Shi Ling explained. Lu Ming was shocked. The primitive universe was divided into the incipient God era and the Heavenly Palace era. The reason why it was divided into the Heavenly Palace era was because of the Heavenly Palace. After the incipient God era, the Heavenly Palace had become the real overlord of the desolate universe. It ruled the entire universe. The Divine Eye Lord of Heaven was actually a giant from the Heavenly Palace. Such a background was truly shocking. However, according to legend, there was more than one Heavenly Palace in the primitive universe. Lu Ming did not know the details. After all, such a force was too far away from Lu Ming. Even the Taishu dynasty was just an ant in front of the Heavenly Palace. However, Lu Ming couldn't help but reveal a look of joy when he thought about how he could obtain the inheritance of the Lord of Heaven by Autumn Moon. The inheritance of the Lord of Heaven was incredible. At this moment, the stone eyeball shrank and turned into a jet of light, shooting into Autumn Moon's body and disappearing. Boom! In the next moment, an intimidating aura exploded from Autumn Moon's body. The aura was earth-shaking, filling the stone chamber. It was incomparably violent. Autumn Moon's soft body trembled. Her face paled and blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. What's going on? Lu Ming was frightened. Oh no, there's still residual energy in the eyeball of Lord of Divine Eye. There's too much energy. Even if this girl has the 9 orifices sacred heart, she won't be able to absorb that much at once. Her body is going to explode from the energy. Shi Ling hurried to shout. What can we do? Lu Ming was extremely worried. At this moment, Autumn Moon coughed out another mouthful of blood. Her body swelled up. Kid, hurry up. This is ownerless energy. I can absorb it. I'll transfer some of it to you. Help her share some of it and she'll be fine. Measuring formula shouted. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Ming nodded repeatedly. He was too concerned. Lu Ming did not think of such a simple method. Lu Ming strode forward and came to Autumn Moon's side. His glabella shone and the measuring formula flew out. A devouring force shrouded Autumn Moon's body. Suddenly, the energy in Autumn Moon's body was absorbed by the measuring formula. Autumn Moon's body began to shrink. Soon, she returned to her original size. Autumn Moon's aura also began to stabilize. The sacred heart of 9 orifices on her chest shone brightly and pulsated like a drum. Boundless energy poured into the sacred heart of 9 orifices. In the end, Lu Ming vaguely saw a stone eyeball fly into Autumn Moon's 9 orifices' sacred heart and merged with it. At this time, the measuring formula flew back and returned to Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Kid, this is the remaining energy of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. I can refine it a little and transfer it to you. You can absorb it and improve your cultivation. Measuring formula said. Is Autumn Moon okay? Lu Ming asked. She's fine. Don't worry. Most of the energy has been integrated into her 9 orifices' sacred heart. Her cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds later. Shi Ling explained. Lu Ming was relieved. He removed his ancient god body and returned to his original form. He sat cross-legged at the side. Sure enough, soon, a surge of energy from the measuring formula flowed into Lu Ming's body. The energy was shocking. It was extremely easy to absorb. Lu Ming executed the Universe Tao technique and began to absorb the energy. He converted it into different kinds of God force to strengthen his godly flames. The 9 godly flames in his dantian continued to grow stronger. Lu Ming's cultivation rose rapidly too. It was approaching the peak 5th layer heaven god realm. A few days later, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak 5th layer heaven god realm. He then began to break through to the 6th layer heaven god realm. Bang bang bang. Loud explosions kept coming out of Lu Ming's body. Another 7 days were gone. The energy absorbed by the measuring formula had been transferred to Lu Ming. A loud explosion took place inside Lu Ming's body. A powerful aura burst out from Lu Ming's body. 6th layer heaven god realm. Lu Ming's cultivation broke through to the 6th layer heaven god realm after absorbing the energy transferred to him by the measuring formula. Lu Ming had mastered many kinds of god force. It would take a lot of energy to improve his cultivation. This time, he had broken through to the next level. If it were someone else, it would be enough to break through to the next level. Lu Ming rose to his feet. His eyes flickered. His battle strength had grown stronger after his breakthrough. If he were to face geniuses like Yuhan and Chu Baxing now, he would be able to crush them easily. Lu Ming thought. He then shifted his gaze to Chiu Moon. Lu Ming's face flickered with astonishment after taking a glance. Chiu Moon's aura was shockingly strong too. 7th layer heaven god realm. Chiu Moon's cultivation had reached the 7th layer heaven god realm. When they first entered Xingyue ancient city, Chiu Moon's cultivation was only at the 2nd layer heaven god realm. On top of that, Chiu Moon had also cultivated the Universe Tao technique. She had mastered many kinds of god force. The energy she needed to improve her cultivation was no less than Lu Ming's. However, Chiu Moon had broken through to the 7th layer heaven god realm in such a short time. The speed of her improvement was shocking. While Lu Ming was thinking, another shocking aura burst out of Chiu Moon's body. Her god force boiled like a tide. A powerful aura spread out in all directions. 8th layer heaven god realm. Lu Ming was tongue-tied, looking stunned. Chapter 3069. In just a short while, Chiu Autumn Moon had another breakthrough and reached the 8th layer heaven god realm. This speed was too fast, wasn't it? Master, don't be too surprised. The girl has obtained the inheritance of the godly Eye Lord of Heaven, and with the help of the 9 orifices' sacred heart, it's normal for her to improve rapidly. The Shi Ling explained. That's right. Besides, I've only absorbed a portion of the energy. It's like you've only taken a sip of the soup, while the girl has eaten all the meat. It's normal for her to improve rapidly. The quantifying formula also explained. Lu Ming nodded. He had only taken a sip of the soup, and his cultivation had improved from the 5th layer heaven god realm to the 6th layer heaven god realm. Chiu Autumn Moon had completely inherited the inheritance of the godly Eye Lord of Heaven, thus her cultivation had skyrocketed. Of course, it was only at the beginning. It was impossible for her to keep improving in the future. Chiao Autumn Moon's cultivation had yet to come to an end. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days had passed. The aura on Chiao Yu's body rose sharply with another rumble. She had another breakthrough. 9th layer Heaven God Realm. Chiao Autumn Moon's cultivation had reached the 9th layer Heaven God Realm. Besides, an ancient aura was emitting from Chiao Autumn Moon's body. The Origin God Force Factor. Lu Ming's eyes glittered. Chiao Autumn Moon had awakened the Origin God Force Factor. However, just like Lu Ming, only her ruler God Force had awakened the Origin God Force Factor. The rest of her God Force had yet to be awakened. Chiao Autumn Moon's aura finally stabilized. It did not continue to rise. A few days later, Chiao Autumn Moon's aura finally stabilized. She then opened her eyes. Young Master! Chiao Autumn Moon exclaimed and threw herself into Lu Ming's arms. Chiao Autumn Moon was aware of what had happened before. She originally thought that she would never be able to see Lu Ming and that she would be possessed by the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. She did not expect that halfway through, Lu Ming would come and kill the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven in one fell swoop. And because she had been in a stalemate with the God Eye Lord of Heaven for many years, she had a connection. When the God Eye Lord of Heaven's soul was destroyed, she automatically absorbed the inheritance left behind by the God Eye Lord of Heaven. Mid-Autumn Moon. Everything is fine now. Let's go. Lu Ming caressed Autumn Moon's hair. The two of them were affectionate for a while before they left the place hand in hand. Along the way, they would occasionally encounter those eyeball monsters, but they were easily dealt with by Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon's cultivation had skyrocketed too much, so she was not used to it yet. She was still not very familiar with controlling the divine power in her body. She needed time to practice. He believed that when Autumn Moon fully adapted to her current cultivation, her strength would be shockingly strong. One had to know that Autumn Moon also controlled many kinds of divine power. In addition, she had awakened the Origin Divine Power Factor and was a level 9 heavenly god. Once she fully adapted, even if Lu Ming did his best, he might not be a match for Autumn Moon. Soon, the two of them arrived at the outermost stone room. Above their heads, there was a rumbling sound. That was the sound of the whirlpool in the Myriad Moon Lake. When they looked up, they could still see the whirlpool. It was very strange. Let's rush out. Lu Ming said. Okay. Autumn Moon nodded. The two of them rose into the air and rushed into the whirlpool. Whoosh! The whirlpool rotated with great force, forming a shocking force that blocked their path. It was not that easy for the two of them to go against the flow. Star burst. Lu Ming shouted and transformed into his ancient god body. He used all his strength and stabbed out with his spear. Rumble. The lake water exploded, forming a passage. The two of them took the opportunity to fly forward. However, the lake water soon surged and blocked the passage again. God-destroying light. Autumn Moon shouted and slashed out with her palm. A pitch-black divine light was slashed at the whirlpool in front of them. This is, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He was a little surprised. He did not expect Autumn Moon to master the Lord of Heaven's God-destroying light so quickly. The God-destroying light was extremely powerful. Even if Autumn Moon had just mastered it, she could still unleash shocking power. A passage was immediately slashed out by the God-destroying light. The two of them continued to move forward. Just like that, the two of them worked together and took turns to attack. Soon, they passed through the whirlpool and flew out of the whirlpool, arriving above the Myriad Moon Lake. Huff, the two of them exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. They were finally out. This trip was daunting but not dangerous. They even had a breakthrough in their cultivation, especially Autumn Moon, who had obtained the inheritance of the Lord of Heaven. Autumn Moon, you've obtained the inheritance of the Lord of Heaven. Don't let anyone know about this. Lu Ming said to Autumn Moon. The inheritance of the Lord of Heaven was definitely an unimaginable opportunity. If others knew about it, it would definitely bring about a disaster, just like the origin ancient characters. Understood, young master. Autumn Moon smiled. By the way, Autumn Moon, how did you get into this whirlpool? Lu Ming asked curiously. I was forced in. Autumn Moon said. You were forced to go in? Who? A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. A member of the Winged Men, the Thunderous Winged Men. Autumn Moon said. The Thunderous Winged Men. Lu Ming thought of the young man from the Thunderous Winged Men that he had met when he first arrived at the Myriad Moon Lake. It was the young man who had guided Lu Ming and got Lu Ming into the whirlpool. Lu Ming immediately described the appearance of the young man from the Thunderous Winged Men that he had met. Yes, it's him. Autumn Moon said. Why did he force you into the whirlpool? Lu Ming asked. He said that someone had asked him to deal with you, young master. Since I'm your subordinate, he wanted to take me down to threaten you. He also said that I must have some secrets since I was able to pass the gate of heaven at the second level of the heaven god realm. If I didn't tell him, he would. At this point, Autumn Moon bit her red lips and didn't continue. However, Lu Ming could guess what Autumn Moon was going to say. Lu Ming held Autumn Moon's hand and asked her to continue. Of course, I wouldn't let him succeed. However, I was no match for him and I couldn't escape. In the end, I had no choice but to take the risk and rush into the whirlpool. I didn't expect that there would be another world inside the whirlpool. After entering, I met the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven and he wanted to take over my body. After that, I tried my best to resist the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. Then, young master came. Autumn Moon briefly recounted what had happened in the past few years. The Thunderous Winged Men. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with cold light and cold killing intent. He completely understood. The Thunderous Winged Men were most likely invited by the Jin family or the Qin family to kill Lu Ming in the Xingyue ancient city. After entering the Xingyue ancient city, the young man from the Winged Men met Autumn Moon near the Wanhua Lake. He wanted to capture Autumn Moon and use her to threaten Lu Ming. At the same time, he wanted to obtain the secrets on Autumn Moon. He even wanted to scheme against Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon had no choice but to rush into the whirlpool to avoid the young man. The young man definitely didn't dare to enter the whirlpool. Therefore, he had been wandering around the area to cultivate. After many years, Autumn Moon didn't come out. He probably thought that there was danger in the whirlpool and that Autumn Moon had died inside. Later on, Lu Ming came. The young man had bad intentions and tricked Lu Ming into entering the whirlpool. He wanted to kill Lu Ming too. Chapter 3070. That person must die. Lu Ming said coldly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. This person was vicious and almost killed Xiao Moon. In Lu Ming's heart, he had already sentenced this person to death. If there was a chance, he must kill this person. Then, Lu Ming looked around. Unfortunately, he did not see the whereabouts of the Winged Man clan near the Myriad Moon Lake. It seemed that he had left long ago. Xiao Moon, 10 years is almost up. Let's go out. Lu Ming said. Xiao Moon nodded obediently. Immediately, the two of them chose a direction and turned into two rays of light, quickly leaving. There was a special passage to leave Star Crescent Ancient City. The passage on the side of 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion was in a huge valley east of Star Crescent Ancient City. The people from other Heavenly King mansions had other channels. Every time someone entered the Star Moon Ancient City, they would exit through a special passageway. This passageway would open every 10 years. Now, the 10 years were almost up. The Myriad Moon Lake was west of Star Crescent Ancient City. There was still a long way to go from the east. The two of them rushed at full speed and spent 7 days before they arrived at the exit. In the sky above a big valley, a huge vortex appeared. This was the exit passage. No one could explain why such a passage would open 10 years after they entered. Perhaps it was a formation set up by the experts who built Star Crescent Ancient City. Everyone could only guess. When the two of them arrived, they found that there were people flying towards them from all directions. Some of them directly flew into the vortex and disappeared. Obviously, some of them had already left. Brother Lu. Brother Lu Ming. A few voices sounded. Lu Ming turned around and saw Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others flying towards him. Brother Wu Ming, Brother Wu Yu. Lu Ming smiled and greeted them. Miss Chiu Moon is fine. That's great. When Wu Ming and the others saw Chiu Moon, they also smiled. It's a long story. Let's go out and talk about it, Lu Ming said. Immediately, everyone flew into the whirlpool. After flying into the whirlpool, they felt the world spinning around them. In the next moment, Lu Ming discovered that he had already left Star Moon Ancient City and was back outside the city walls. With a glance, Lu Ming saw the elder of the Starry Sky Battalion, Bai Li, sitting cross-legged in the air. In addition, there were many figures standing in the sky. They were the geniuses of the Starry Barracks from the Starry Moon Ancient City. Lu Ming saw Su Yan, the young man, and Jin Yuan. Su Yan, the young man clad in animal skin, and the others nodded at Lu Ming as a greeting. As for Jin Yuan, his eyes were extremely cold and filled with killing intent. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a cold killing intent enveloping him. Lu Ming looked around and saw a beautiful woman coldly staring at him. Lan Ling. Who else could this woman be other than Lan Ling, who had been trying to kill him? However, Lan Ling did not attack this time. She only stared coldly at Lu Ming and then glanced at Autumn Moon. Young master, who is that lady? She seems to have a deep grudge against you. Did you do something wrong? Autumn Moon was very sensitive. She noticed Lan Ling and whispered softly. Little girl, don't let your imagination run wild. I am a gentleman. Lu Ming immediately said righteously. She could not let her imagination run wild and ruin his character. Autumn Moon smiled and did not say much. It's him. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and his body emitted a cold killing intent. He saw a young man from the winged men tribe with lightning flashing on his wings. He was the one who had guided Lu Ming into the whirlpool at the Myriad Moon Lake. He was also the one who wanted to deal with Autumn Moon and force Autumn Moon into the whirlpool. Obviously, this person had come out earlier than Lu Ming and the rest. Boom! Lu Ming's body emitted a powerful aura. He took a step forward and charged towards the young man from the winged men tribe. Young master, be careful. Autumn Moon also noticed the young man. She knew that she could not persuade Lu Ming given his temper. She could only remind him worriedly and followed closely behind Lu Ming. Wu Ming and the rest looked at each other and followed behind Lu Ming. The people in front of Lu Ming were suppressed by Lu Ming's aura. They retreated and opened up a path for him. Lu Ming quickly moved towards the young man from the winged men tribe. The young man from the winged men tribe also saw Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. His expression changed drastically. Damn it. The two of them entered the whirlpool and are still fine? What a blunder. The young man from the winged men tribe looked gloomy. Seeing that Lu Ming was getting closer and closer to him, the young man from the winged men tribe felt chills all over his body. He shouted, Lu Ming, what are you doing? Killing you. Lu Ming's reply was simple. His voice was bone-chilling. Killing me? What do you mean? I didn't offend you. Why do you want to kill me? You're simply insane and lawless. The young man from the winged men tribe shouted. Of course, he would not admit that he wanted to deal with Autumn Moon. Hee hee. Lu Ming sneered. His aura became more aggressive. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with the young man. A long spear appeared in his hand. A spear radiance burst out and charged towards the young man from the winged men tribe. The young man from the winged men tribe was shocked. His aura surged, especially the pair of wings on his back. Thunder rumbled. Whoosh! He flapped his wings and they were like divine sabers piercing through the air. The thunderbolts on his wings transformed into two thunderbolt sabers that slashed toward Lu Ming. The thunder battle blades clashed with Lu Ming's spear radiance, causing a shockwave. The young man from the winged men tribe was not weak. He was a half-step divine king and his divine force had awakened to 99%. He was not far from fully awakening his divine force. However, how could he contend with Lu Ming's current strength? Boom! The thunder battle blades of the young man from the winged men tribe were shattered. The spear radiance did not stop and continued to charge towards the young man from the winged men tribe. The young man from the winged men tribe screamed in fear. His body soared into the sky, trying to dodge Lu Ming's spear radiance. However, he was too late. One of his thighs was pierced by the spear radiance and exploded. Ah! The young man from the winged men tribe screamed in pain. He retreated a few thousand meters and vomited blood. What? So powerful. Lu Ming's strength is so terrifying. Many people gasped in shock. Not everyone had seen Lu Ming's attack. Only a small portion of them had seen Lu Ming's attack. Those who had not seen Lu Ming's attack were shocked and they saw Lu Ming injuring the young man from the winged men tribe. The young man from the winged men tribe was called Yi Xiang. He was the 16th young master of the winged men tribe. His talent was outstanding and he was quite famous in the Starry Camp. Yi Xiang's strength had undoubtedly increased after the trip to the Starry Crescent ancient city. However, he was still no match for Lu Ming. How could Lu Ming be so powerful? You guys don't know. Lu Ming defeated Jin Yuan. Someone whispered. Chapter 3071. Someone talked about how Lu Ming defeated Jin Yuan, which shocked everyone. Oh my god, is that true? Lu Ming defeated Jin Yuan? If I remember correctly, Lu Ming was only a 4th-level heavenly god when he entered Xingyue ancient city. How could he defeat Jin Yuan? That's too terrifying. After hearing that, many people found it hard to believe. There was a lot of discussion at the scene. Of course, most people still didn't know that Lu Ming had not only defeated Jin Yuan, but also the other peerless geniuses of the Heavenly King's mansion in the process of fighting for the Life Spirit Vitality Stone. Only Jin Yuan, Su Yan, and the young man in beast skin knew about this. They didn't spread the news. If the others knew about this, their jaws would probably drop. After hearing that, Jin Yuan's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. Kill. Lu Ming ignored the discussion around him. Right now, he only wanted to kill Yi Xiang. Men, kill this kid for me. Seeing that Lu Ming was continuing to attack, Yi Xiang shouted in horror. He didn't expect Lu Ming to be so strong. Don't even think about hurting young master. On the side, a loud roar was heard. Bolts of lightning flashed. In the next moment, more than 10 figures appeared in front of Yi Xiang. These figures were all the geniuses of the Thunder-Winged Men clan. Yi Xiang was the 16th young master of the Thunder-Winged Men clan. Ordinary geniuses of the Winged Men clan had to listen to Yi Xiang's orders. Kid, you're courting death by attacking young master Yi Xiang. Lu Ming, surrender and follow us back to the Winged Men clan to accept your punishment. The geniuses of the Winged Men clan shouted, using the Winged Men clan to suppress Lu Ming. But obviously, they had miscalculated. Why would Lu Ming care about the Winged Men clan? Get lost. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Kid, you're very arrogant. Even if you're strong, do you think we can't do anything to you? Let's attack together and take down this kid. More than 10 geniuses of the Winged Men clan roared and released their powerful auras. Boom! Boom! Releasing their auras, thunderbolts rumbled. More than 10 sky prides of the Winged Men race struck out at the same time. Flapping their wings, they sent bolts of thunderbolts towards Lu Ming. The power of lightning was already extremely strong. With so many sky prides joining forces, the power was truly frightening. Kill! Lu Ming let out a long roar. The battle character's secret art was activated, and his spear swept out. A gigantic spear light was formed. It was as huge as a mountain as it pressed down on the genius of the winged men race. Boom! Boom! Streaks of lightning collided with Lu Ming's spear light, erupting with intense rumbling sounds. Then, those lightning bolts collapsed one after another, and the spear light continued to sweep out. The winged men prodigy's faces changed drastically as they shouted, "Block it! Block it!" They tried their best to use their strongest moves to block Lu Ming's attack. However, when the spear light swept past, the winged men race's sky prides were like cannonballs as they were sent flying by Lu Ming. They flew for tens of thousands of meters before coming to a stop. Then, they spat out mouthfuls of blood and were severely injured. After Lu Ming activated the battle character's secret art, his combat strength increased by 4 times, and he severely injured the winged men race's sky prides. His cold gaze swept towards Yi Xiang once again. Yi Xiang's face was as pale as a sheet. He desperately flew towards Bai Li and shouted, "Elder Bai, save me! Save me! This Lu Ming has gone crazy." He could only pin his hopes on Bai Li now. Only Bai Li could save him at this moment. "Kill!" Lu Ming shouted as he thrust out his spear. A terrifying and sharp spear light pierced towards Yi Xiang. It was shockingly fast. Yi Xiang wanted to dodge, but he realized that his body seemed to have been locked in place. He couldn't dodge at all. He had a feeling that if he was hit by this move, he would die. "No, no, no! Save me!" Yi Xiang screamed crazily. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. His eyes were filled with horror. Just as the spear light was about to hit Yi Xiang, a light screen suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xiang at the critical moment. Buzz! Lu Ming's spear light struck the light screen, causing it to vibrate slightly. Then, the spear light disappeared. The spear light was blocked. I'm saved," Yi Xiang stammered. He was covered in cold sweat and his body was trembling non-stop. He was really scared to death just now. Lu Ming's face darkened as he looked up into the sky. Bai Li was sitting cross-legged in the sky. Only Bai Li could save Yi Xiang. Obviously, the light screen just now was sent out by Yi Xiang. "Elder Bai, this person tried to assassinate my wife in Xingyue Ancient City. If my wife wasn't lucky, she would have died. I want to kill him. Why are you stopping me?" Lu Ming's voice was neither servile nor overbearing as it spread across the entire place. Many people were enlightened as they looked at Chiu Moon, who was beside Lu Ming. It turned out that Yi Xiang wanted to assassinate Chiu Moon. No wonder Lu Ming wanted to kill Yi Xiang the moment he saw him. "If you have any grudges, you can settle them in Xingyue Ancient City or wait until you return to the Starry Camp. I don't care how you want to kill me. However, since you have left Xingyue Ancient City alive, I have the obligation to bring you back to the Starry Camp safely," Bai Li said. "Elder Bai, are you sure you want to interfere?" Lu Ming asked. "That's right. Settle your grudges when you return to the Starry Camp. I won't interfere," Bai Li said. His voice was firm and there was no room for negotiation. In fact, Bai Li had no other choice. The Thunderwings clan had great influence in the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace. Not only in the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace, but also in the Taishu dynasty. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, if he let Yi Xiang be killed by Lu Ming and did nothing, the Thunderwings clan would find trouble with him and he wouldn't be able to escape. As for Lu Ming, he didn't have any background. He naturally had to protect Yi Xiang. "Since Elder Bai has said so, I won't interfere." Lu Ming's eyes flickered a few times before he turned around and left. Bai Li's cultivation was unfathomable. It wasn't something that Lu Ming could contend against. If Bai Li was determined to interfere, he wouldn't be able to kill Yi Xiang no matter what. If he insisted on taking action, not only would he fail to kill Yi Xiang, he would also offend Bai Li. After weighing the pros and cons, Lu Ming could only give up and find another chance to kill Yi Xiang in the future. There would be plenty of chances in the future. Lu Ming, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Yi Xiang stared at Lu Ming and roared in his heart. The scene calmed down once again. The crowd waited quietly for the others to come out from Xingyue ancient city. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days had passed. Alright, 10 years have passed. The passage in Xingyue ancient city has been closed. Those who haven't come out won't be able to come out. Let's go back. Bai Li's voice reverberated throughout the crowd. He then led the crowd towards the wormhole. On the way, Yi Xiang only followed beside Bai Li as he was afraid that Lu Ming would attack him. Chapter 3072. Soon, they arrived at the wormhole. You guys enter in batches. You guys go in first. Bai Li started to make arrangements. This time, he arranged for the others to enter in batches. The first batch included Yi Xiang and a dozen winged men youths. Yi Xiang and the winged men youths quickly rushed into the wormhole and disappeared. After a while, Bai Li arranged for another batch of people to enter. Just like that, batches after batches of people entered. As for Lu Ming and the rest, they were left for last. Lu Ming sneered. This Bai Li was obviously biased towards Yi Xiang. He purposely arranged for them to enter the wormhole in batches. Moreover, he arranged for Yi Xiang to be in the first batch and left Lu Ming to be in the last batch. He was afraid that Lu Ming would attack Yi Xiang when they returned to the Starry Sky camp. This way, Yi Xiang would have time to escape when he returned to the Starry Sky camp. What a good plan. However, Lu Ming couldn't object. He could only wait quietly. Now, come with me. At the end, Bai Li said to Lu Ming and the others. The group flew into the wormhole and returned to the territory of the Starry Sky camp. After returning to the Starry Sky camp, Lu Ming scanned the surroundings. As expected, he didn't see Yi Xiang and the others. They must have left the camp and returned to the Winged Men clan. Brothers Wu, Lu Ming has a request. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said to Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others. Brother Lu, please speak your mind. If we can do it, we won't refuse. That's right. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others nodded in agreement. Not to mention that they were friends with Lu Ming, just Lu Ming's talent was enough to shock them. They had never seen someone as talented as Lu Ming. With Lu Ming's talent, his future would be immeasurable. When he grew up, he might even become a big shot in the Taishu dynasty. They must build a good relationship with such a person. The best time to build a good relationship with a person was when the other party hadn't grown up yet. I must kill Yi Xiang. Later, I'll have to trouble Brothers Wu to help me find Yi Xiang's whereabouts. Lu Ming said. So it's this matter. It's no big deal. Leave it to us. That's right. Our Wu clan has many spies in the 9 Absolute Heavenly King Mansion. It's extremely easy to find out about a person's whereabouts. Wu Ming and Wu Yu patted their chests and agreed readily. However, Brother Lu, the Thunder-Winged Man tribe is extremely powerful. Most importantly, the Thunder-Winged Man tribe has many branches and is extremely powerful. If you want to kill Yi Xiang, you have to be careful. Wu Zixiong reminded. I know. Thank you for your concern, Brother Wu. Lu Ming smiled. He naturally knew that the Winged Clan was not to be trifled with. However, the Winged Clan had almost killed Xiao Autumn Moon. He could not let this matter rest. Moreover, even if he wanted to let it go, the other party would not let him off so easily. They chatted as they flew towards their respective residences. Not long after, Lu Ming and Xiao Yu returned to the courtyard where they lived. In truth, with Xiao Autumn Moon's current strength, he was completely capable of challenging others and easily seizing a monastery. However, she liked to stay together with Lu Ming. Hence, there was no need for him to seize another monastery. Chiu Autumn Moon, your cultivation has just skyrocketed. You need to consolidate it. Lu Ming said to Autumn Moon. Young master, I'll go and cultivate then. Chiu Autumn Moon nodded and returned to her room to cultivate. Lu Ming also returned to his room. The moment he opened the door, a metal ball flew towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you're finally back. I'm bored to death staying here alone. Chiu cried out as its round body spun around. You're always eating and sleeping. How can you be lonely? Lu Ming's lips twitched. He sized up Chiu and his eyes suddenly lit up. Chiu, your cultivation has broken through again? Lu Ming asked in surprise. Yes. I've broken through. I'm now at the second layer of the God King realm. How is it? Awesome, right? Chiu bounced up and down, his face full of pride. Indeed. Lu Ming said happily. One should know that breaking through to the God King realm was extremely difficult. Every breakthrough required a long period of accumulation. However, Chiu had just broken through not too long ago and had broken through again. This speed was astonishing. Seems like this guy only has precious metal attribute materials to break through at an astonishing speed. Lu Ming muttered. During the hundreds of years that Chiu had been asleep, Lu Ming had accumulated a large amount of precious metal attribute materials. After Chiu had awakened, Lu Ming had given it all to Chiu. Clearly, after digesting those metal attribute materials, Chiu's cultivation had broken through to the second layer of the God King realm. Chiu's strength was already astonishing. Now that it had broken through to the second layer of the God King realm, it was undoubtedly even stronger. Chiu, I have something good for you. Lu Ming smiled, then took out a few treasures. Lu Ming had obtained 2 boxes from the castle in Star Moon Ancient City. Inside were some small towers, mirrors, and other treasures. Although many years had passed and most of their spiritual energy had been lost, the materials used to make these treasures were extremely rare and precious. They would be of great help to Chiu. Lu Ming took out a few treasures and gave them to Chiu to try. He wanted to see how effective they were. As soon as Chiu saw these treasures, its eyes sparkled. It couldn't move its gaze away. Delicious, absolutely delicious. Are these all for me? Looking at the treasures, Chiu almost drooled. Are these treasures of great help to you? Lu Ming asked. Yes, of course. They're even better than what you gave me before. Chiu nodded immediately. Its eyes didn't leave the treasures, as if it couldn't wait to hug them and take a few bites. Then take them. I have more here. If you want to eat them, I'll take them. Lu Ming smiled and threw the treasures to Chiu. Chiu stretched out 2 claws, grabbed them, and stuffed them into its mouth, chewing loudly. Lu Ming smiled, walked into the room, and sat cross-legged on the bed. Then, a few storage rings appeared in his hand. During this trip to Star Moon Ancient City, Lu Ming had killed many opponents. They were all top geniuses. Obtaining their storage rings must be a great harvest. Lu Ming checked them one by one. Half a day later, Lu Ming had sorted out the things in all the storage rings. A great harvest. The wealth of so many geniuses added together was a great harvest. All kinds of divine weapons, divine pills, materials, and divine crystals were piled up like a mountain. Lu Ming had almost used up all the divine crystals to buy the 5 divine-grade divine techniques. Now, he was rich again. These were still considered good. What delighted Lu Ming the most were the divine techniques. Lu Ming sorted out 4 divine-grade divine techniques in the storage rings of these peerless geniuses. As for the divine techniques, there were dozens of them. However, Lu Ming didn't care about the divine techniques at all. He casually stuffed them into a storage ring. What Lu Ming cared about were the 4 divine-grade divine techniques. Chapter 3073. He had obtained 4 different divine-grade techniques from Yuhan, Chu Baxing, and young noble heavenly mantis's storage rings. Unfortunately, none of them matched Lu Ming's golden dragon god force or four-eyed divine dragon god force. Thus, the golden dragon god force and four-eyed divine dragon god force couldn't be merged. Lu Ming yearned for the divine grade divine power that corresponded to these two divine powers. As long as he could obtain the corresponding divine grade god force, all of Lu Ming's god force would be transformed into divine grade god force. Also, the divine dragon aspect art required divine power related to dragons in order to unleash its full power. Furthermore, his new yin-yang divine pupils required a god force related to his eyes. Four-eyed divine dragon god force could enhance his yin-yang divine pupils. If he could cultivate a divine grade god force similar to his four-eyed divine dragon god force, the enhancement would be even greater. I still need to find an opportunity to inquire about these two types of god force. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Then, he pondered over the four divine grade techniques in his possession. He didn't plan to cultivate all four divine grade techniques at the moment. He had already grasped enough divine grade god force. The amount of energy required to enhance so many types of divine grade god force at the same time was shocking. Furthermore, Lu Ming planned to awaken his origin god force factor. This would cost Lu Ming a lot of energy. Lu Ming didn't have that much time to cultivate. Originally, Lu Ming didn't plan to cultivate any of the four divine grade techniques. However, one of them attracted Lu Ming's attention. Overlord Spear Art. This was a divine grade technique he had obtained from Chu Baxing. After cultivating it, he would be able to condense the Overlord Spear Art. The Overlord Spear Art would greatly enhance the power of the spear. It was the same principle as the inextinguishable sword force for sword users. Lu Ming was a spear user. Although the inextinguishable sword force was powerful, it wasn't very suitable for a long spear. If he could control the Overlord Spear Art, he would be able to push Lu Ming's spear skills to the limit. Another important reason was that Lu Ming had obtained a divine skill from Chu Baxing. The name of the skill reminded Lu Ming of Chu Baxing's ultimate move, the War God Strike. The strike of the War God originated from the War God Strike. Lu Ming's 3 Armageddon strikes only had a total of 9 levels. Lu Ming had already reached the 8th level. Once he reached the 9th level, he would reach his limit. At that time, Lu Ming would need to find a new divine skill to cultivate. As for the War God Strike, it was divided into 13 stages. This was enough for Lu Ming to cultivate for a very long time. Therefore, Lu Ming decided to cultivate the Overlord Spear Art and temporarily not cultivate the other 3 divine techniques. Putting away the other 3 divine techniques, Lu Ming took out the Overlord Spear Art and carefully studied it. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. Lu Ming had already comprehended a bit of it. Right now, Lu Ming was already very familiar with divine grade divine techniques. Switching to a new one, his speed was much faster than before. On this day, while Lu Ming was cultivating, he suddenly sensed an aura approaching his courtyard. Oh! Lu Ming frowned. Ending his cultivation, he walked out of his courtyard. As soon as he walked out, he saw a beautiful woman standing in the air. She was like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. The woman was none other than Lan Ling. Could it be that she had killed her way here? What are you doing here? Do you want to kill me again? Lu Ming frowned and said coldly. Right now, he wasn't afraid of her. If she wanted to attack him again, he wouldn't mind teaching her an unforgettable lesson. Lan Ling's expression was very cold. She glared at Lu Ming, gnashing her teeth as if she wanted nothing more than to immediately kill Lu Ming. But in the end, she restrained herself and coldly said, "My father wants to see you." "Your father?" Lu Ming was slightly stunned. Then, his eyes flashed. Lan Ling's father was Jing Yu's teacher. "Are you going to see him or not?" "I've already delivered your message. If you don't want to see him, then goodbye." Lan Ling finished speaking and turned to leave. It was as if she couldn't wait for Lu Ming to refuse to see her father. See him? Why not? Lu Ming rose into the air and followed behind Lan Ling. Her father was Jing Yu's teacher. In the Taishu dynasty, he was definitely a big shot. If Lu Ming wanted to reverse the case for Jing Yu, it would be much easier if he could borrow his father's power. Why not? Lu Ming wasn't stupid. Humph. Seeing Lu Ming following her, Lan Ling coldly snorted. She seemed to be very unhappy. Lan Ling kept flying towards the peak of Star Peak. You and your father are living at the peak of Star Peak? Lu Ming asked curiously. Humph. Lan Ling snorted coldly. Isn't your father Prince Jing Yu's teacher? Why isn't he in the imperial capital of the Taishu dynasty? Why is he living in the starry camp of the Jiu Heavenly King Mansion? Lu Ming asked again. Humph. Lan Ling snorted coldly. What exactly happened back then? Do you know anything about it? Lu Ming asked. Humph. Lan Ling snorted coldly. Lu Ming was speechless. He could only shut up. No matter what he asked, the other party only replied with a snort. Not long after, the two of them arrived at a courtyard not far from the peak of Star Peak. Outside the courtyard, there was a small lake. The lake water was so clear that one could see the bottom. They could even see small fish swimming around in the lake. On the surface of the lake, there was a middle-aged man with graying temples. He wore an ordinary linen robe and sat cross-legged on the surface of the lake. He seemed to be admiring the small fish in the lake. Father. Lan Ling called out softly. Coming. The middle-aged man said. He then stood up and looked at Lu Ming. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Lu Ming, and Lan Ling. Is this Jing Yu's teacher? As expected, he has an extraordinary temperament. However, why is there not a trace of divine power on him? He is just like an ordinary person. Perhaps his cultivation is too high and the gap between us is too big. Thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. The middle-aged man also looked at Lu Ming carefully. His eyes were bright as if he could see through Lu Ming. Not bad, not bad. I can't see through him at all. As expected of Jing Yu's successor. The middle-aged man nodded repeatedly and said, Lu Ming, come with me. I have something to tell you. After saying that, the middle-aged man walked into the courtyard. Lu Ming's eyes flickered a few times. He then followed the middle-aged man into the courtyard. Lan Ling did not follow. Instead, she waited outside the courtyard. Walking into the courtyard, there were stone tables and stone stools placed in the courtyard. Sit. The middle-aged man sat down on a stone stool and waved his hand, indicating Lu Ming to sit. Thank you, senior. Lu Ming cupped his fists and sat down. I'm Blue Merchant. The middle-aged man introduced himself. Senior Blue Merchant. Lu Ming greeted. You're welcome. You're Jing Yu's successor. Logically speaking, you're 2 generations below me. However, we're not strangers. You can just call me Uncle Lan Shu. Lan Shang said with a smile, making people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Lu Ming nodded and called him Uncle Lan Shu. Chapter 3074. Uncle Lan Shu, I would like to know, how did you know that I'm Senior Jing Yu's successor? Lu Ming asked the question that had been bothering him for a long time. He was certain that Lan Shang had seen through his disguise during his battle with Ice Eagle. But how did the other party see through it? Because you cultivate sovereign god force. Blue Merchant said with a faint smile. Sovereign god force? Lu Ming was puzzled. That's right. There's a trace of Jing Yu's imprint in your sovereign god force. Although it's very faint, I've guided Jing Yu's cultivation for many years and know him too well. Therefore, even though there's only a trace of Jing Yu's imprint in your sovereign god force, I can still sense it. Other than Jing Yu's successor, who else would have Jing Yu's imprint? Blue Merchant said with a faint smile. Jing Yu's imprint? Lu Ming's mind raced, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Back when he was in the Yellow Springs Mountain, he had studied the sovereign Tao by looking at Jing Yu's statue. Perhaps that was why his sovereign god force had a trace of Jing Yu's imprint. You were able to obtain Jing Yu's inheritance because you came from the Yellow Springs Mountain's sealed land, right? How's the Yellow Springs Mountain now? Lan Shang asked with a complicated look in his eyes. Lu Ming immediately explained what had happened in the Yellow Springs Mountain. Sigh, it's been hard on them. One day, they'll see the light of day again. Blue Merchant said. His eyes shone brightly as he spoke. Uncle Lan Shu, what happened back then? Senior Jingyu, who did this to you? Lu Ming asked. Blue Merchant shook his head and said, I don't know. What I know is similar to what Jingyu knows. Back then, Jingyu was framed and fell. His trusted aides were either killed or sealed. As for me, I was stripped of my authority. Due to some reason, I came to the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. Blue Merchant sighed. Many things seemed to have happened back then, and he didn't want to talk about it. Then, his tone changed as he said, Prince Jingyu must have been framed back then. This matter must be investigated thoroughly. I've promised Senior Jingyu that I'll investigate this matter and help him reverse the verdict. At that time, I'll have to trouble Uncle Lan Shu to help me. Lu Ming said. Of course, I will do my best to help you. However, now is not the time. There is no need to rush this matter. Your current goal is to increase your strength. Your current strength is still too weak in the Taishu Holy Court, Yi Futian said. Lan Shang said. Lu Ming nodded his head but he sighed in his heart. His strength had increased very quickly, faster than most people, but he always felt that his cultivation was not enough. By the way, you said you're from the Qin Tian Star Field. Why did you come to the Starry Camp? Oh, are you going to use the Starry Camp as a springboard to enter the Taishu Imperial Academy? Then, you'll use the Taishu Imperial Academy as your foundation to slowly rise and investigate Prince Jingyu's case? Blue Merchant suddenly said. Taishu Imperial Academy? Lu Ming was puzzled. You don't know about the Taishu Imperial Academy? Blue Merchant was surprised. I don't know. What does it do? Lu Ming shook his head and asked. The Taishu Imperial Academy is the place where all the sky prides of the Taishu dynasty gathered. Not only all the top sky prides of the Taishu dynasty gathered there, but even the princes and princesses of the Taishu dynasty studied there. That's the place where the Taishu dynasty cultivated their talents. Almost all the big shots of the Taishu dynasty came from the Taishu dynasty. Prince Jingyu also studied in the Taishu dynasty. But if you want to enter the Taishu dynasty, you'll have to be recommended by the big shots of the Taishu dynasty. Otherwise, you can only enter the starry camp of each heavenly king's mansion. Blue Merchant explained. Lu Ming was suddenly enlightened. He understood now. He had heard from Wu Zifeng and the others that if one wanted to enter the core area of the Taishu dynasty to cultivate, one had to join the starry camp first. If one didn't join the starry camp, one wouldn't be able to cultivate in the Taishu dynasty. I didn't come to the starry camp to enter the Taishu Imperial Academy. Lu Ming said. Then what's your purpose here? Blue Merchant was surprised. It's for the treasure of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King's mansion, the theft of the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal. Lu Ming said. The 9 Extinction Godly Crystal? I've heard about it. How is it? How's your investigation going? Blue Merchant asked. I still don't have a clue. Lu Ming shook his head and briefly recounted what had happened during this period of time. He also said that he suspected that there was evidence in the storage ring of the Dark Knight Demon, but he couldn't find it even after searching it many times. There are some ways to seal some evidence very deeply. It's normal that you can't find it. Give me the storage ring of the Dark Knight Demon and I'll help you find it. Blue Merchant said. Thank you, Uncle Lan Shu. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He immediately took out the storage ring of the Dark Knight Demon and gave it to Blue Merchant. Blue Merchant was Jingyu's teacher. His cultivation was unfathomable and he was knowledgeable. He might be able to find evidence. If he could find evidence and find the person who colluded with the Dark Ice Race to steal the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal, the safety of the Qin Tian Star Zone would be solved. Blue Merchant took the storage ring and put it away. By the way, there's one more thing. Lan Shang's tone suddenly changed. He coughed dryly and said, when Jingyu was still alive, I made an agreement with him that if we had descendants in the future, if they were of the same gender, we would become brothers or sisters. If they were of the opposite gender, we would become husband and wife. Later, Jingyu died and didn't have any descendants. As Jingyu's successor, you are equivalent to his descendant. I will definitely fulfill my promise and marry Ling to you. Ah. Lu Ming was caught off guard. He didn't expect Blue Merchant to mention this. Uncle Lan Shu, you can't do that. I've only met Miss Lan Ling once, no, twice. Isn't it too hasty to marry her to me? Lu Ming waved his hand. That's easy. You can move in together and spend more time together. You'll be familiar with each other in the future. Blue Merchant smiled. He was very open-minded. No, Uncle Lan Shu. To be honest, I already have a wife. Lu Ming said. It's okay. It's normal for a man to have multiple wives. Blue Merchant said. Lu Ming was speechless. Blue Merchant was very open-minded. He was pushing his daughter into the fire pit. However, Lu Ming had Xian Yanqing and Autumn Moon. In addition, he had Mulans and Huang Ling, 2 confidants. He already had enough headaches. He didn't want another one. Moreover, when he thought of Lan Ling's murderous expression, Lu Ming refused even more. Living with Lan Ling? What a joke. He wouldn't even know when he was killed by her. Uncle Lan Shu, no, still no. Lu Ming still shook his head. Why? Do you think my daughter is not worthy of you? Blue Merchant's face sank and said coldly. Chapter 3075. How could that be? Miss Ling, is as beautiful as a fairy. How could she not be worthy of me? It's just that. Miss Ling, wants to kill me. Lu Ming began to complain. Wants to kill you? Blue Merchant was slightly taken aback. Then, he smiled bitterly and said, this girl is really rebellious. Then, Blue Merchant frowned and fell into deep thought. Lu Ming secretly prayed that Blue Merchant would give up on the idea of marrying Lan Ling to him. Although Lan Ling was an outstanding beauty and any man would be moved by her, Lu Ming knew that he didn't have the fortune to be with her bad temper. After a while, Blue Merchant said, how about this, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll let Ling, stay by your side for 1,000 years and let you develop feelings for each other. If after 1,000 years, you still don't want to marry each other, then this matter will be dropped. This isn't too good. Lu Ming's face immediately turned bitter. Let Lan Ling, that crazy woman, stay by his side for 1,000 years? What a joke. At the thought of this, Lu Ming felt a headache coming. What's not good about it? Feelings need to be developed. You're afraid that Ling, will make a move on you again. Don't worry, I'll warn her properly. In addition, Ling's talent is not bad. If you two are together, you can take care of each other and help Jingyu reverse the case. This matter is settled. Blue Merchant waved his hand and settled this matter. This, Lu Ming was completely speechless. Ha, that's it. Lu Ming, go out and wait for me. I'll call Ling in and give her a good scolding. Lan Shang laughed out loud. He laughed like a sly old fox. Lu Ming despised him in his heart. This Blue Merchant looked gentle on the surface, but in fact, he was scheming in his heart. He wanted to set him up with Lan Ling. He believed that with Lan Ling's beauty, staying with Lu Ming every day, they would definitely develop feelings for each other. This old man must have taken a fancy to my talent. Sigh, there's nothing I can do about it. Who asked me to be so talented and handsome? There's really nothing I can do about it. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. If Blue Merchant knew what Lu Ming was thinking, he would probably spit out a mouthful of blood. Lu Ming walked out of the courtyard and saw Lan Ling. He said to Lan Ling, "Your father is looking for you." Humph. Lan Ling coldly snorted and walked into the courtyard without looking at Lu Ming. Lu Ming waited in the garden. Not long after, he saw Blue Merchant and Lan Ling walking out together. Lan Ling's eyes were red. When she saw Lu Ming, she glared hatefully at Lu Ming. She wished she could eat Lu Ming. "Lu Ming, I'll tell Ling, to inform you about the matter of the evidence after I find it. Now, I'll let Ling send you back." "Ling, send Lu Ming off," Blue Merchant instructed. Lan Ling gritted her teeth and walked unwillingly to Lu Ming's side. She said coldly, "Let's go." Lu Ming smiled bitterly. It seemed that Lan Ling was really reprimanded by Blue Merchant. It seemed that her resentment towards him was even heavier. "Uncle Lan Shu, goodbye." Lu Ming cupped his fists. Then, he stepped into the air and flew towards his own courtyard. Lan Ling walked side by side with Lu Ming with a cold face. After a while, they were far away from Blue Merchant's residence. "Lu Ming, what did you say to my father?" Suddenly, Lan Ling spoke. Her voice was cold as she glared at Lu Ming. "No, I didn't say anything," Lu Ming said. Of course, he had to deny it. "You didn't say anything? Then why would my father reprimand me? You're a man, but you actually snitched in front of my father. You're really shameless," Lan Ling said hatefully. Lu Ming was speechless. He felt wronged in his heart. It was the other party who wanted to kill him as soon as they met. Couldn't he say anything? Humph. "Lecher, you already have a woman by your side. You still want me to follow you? Shameless, despicable." Lan Ling continued to scold. Lu Ming almost coughed up blood. What did she mean by him wanting Lan Ling to follow him? It was clearly Blue Merchant who forced her to follow him, okay? Don't talk nonsense. It was your father who forced you to follow me for 1,000 years. I originally refused, Lu Ming quickly denied. You mean to say that no one wants me and it was my father who forced me to follow you? Am I trying to climb up your social ladder? Lan Ling's face turned colder. Lu Ming almost coughed up blood. How could this woman's imagination be so wild? He didn't mean that. It's fine if you want to follow me for 1,000 years, but it depends on whether you have the ability or not. If you can survive 3 of my moves, I'll follow you for 1,000 years. Suddenly, Lan Ling's voice turned cold. A cold murderous intent shrouded Lu Ming. Lu Ming frowned. He felt that Lan Ling really wanted to kill him. She wanted to use this reason to kill him. However, that was then and this was now. Lu Ming's current strength was many times stronger than when he first met Lan Ling. "Come on, let me have a taste of your moves." Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. He had already given way many times, but Lan Ling was still pressing on. Lu Ming was also angry. Clang! The long sword was unsheathed and the sword's cry was earth-shattering. First move. Lan Ling's voice had just sounded when a terrifying sword light slashed towards Lu Ming. Its power was extremely shocking. This move could even kill a half-step divine king who hadn't awakened his divine origin power. Lan Ling attacked without mercy. Boom! Lu Ming's body also erupted with a powerful aura. A long spear appeared in his hand and he swung it out. Clang! The long spear collided with the sword light, erupting with a violent rumble. Terrifying force chi spread out in all directions like a storm. When the force chi dissipated, Lu Ming and Lan Ling's bodies stood in the void motionlessly. Turns out that he already awakened his divine origin power. Lan Ling's gaze sharpened, revealing a look of surprise. She did not expect that Lu Ming only had 6th level celestial deity cultivation and he already awakened his divine origin power. Wait a minute, 6th level celestial deity. Lan Ling thought of something and secretly revealed a look of surprise. She remembered very clearly that back then at Star Moon Ancient City, Lu Ming's cultivation was only 4th level celestial deity. Just how long had it been? Lu Ming actually broke through 2 rounds in a row and reached 6th level celestial deity. This speed was also too fast. He must have had a fortuitous encounter in Star Moon Ancient City. Otherwise, it's absolutely impossible to be so fast by relying on his own cultivation. Lan Ling's heart skipped a beat. She did not guess wrong about this. Lu Ming did have a fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, it was absolutely impossible for his cultivation to rise so quickly. One move. Lu Ming said indifferently. Originally, he could have purposely lost to the other party. Then, Lan Ling would not have to follow by his side. However, Lu Ming also had his pride. He wanted to teach Lan Ling a lesson now. Naturally, he would not give in. Humph, don't think that you can stop me just because you've awakened your divine origin power. Lan Ling snorted coldly. The aura on her body became even stronger. Her strength was pushed to the extreme by her. Buzz. A sword shadow that was tens of thousands of meters long continuously shook the void. Then, it slashed down violently at Lu Ming with terrifying might. Chapter 3076. Lan Ling pushed her cultivation base to the maximum and slashed out a terrifying attack. Lan Ling's cultivation base was extremely high. She was only half a step away from the Divine King realm. It seemed like she could break through to the Divine King realm at any time. Moreover, her strength was extremely strong. She was even stronger than when she was in Xingyue Ancient City. Lu Ming felt that she was stronger than Jin Yuan and not any weaker than Chu Baxing. Obviously, Lu Ming wasn't the only one who had improved in Xingyue Ancient City. Others had improved as well. Moon slashing. Lu Ming roared and instantly activated the battle character's secret art to increase his combat strength by 4 times. He then slashed out with his spear. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed towards Lan Ling. Boom. The second collision caused an even more shocking shockwave. Fortunately, the two of them were already high up in the sky. Otherwise, the entire Starry Sky barracks would be alarmed by them. There was still no clear winner in this collision. The second move. Lu Ming said indifferently. Lan Ling's face turned even uglier. The sword intent on her body was getting stronger and stronger. Divine sword art, kill. Lan Ling shouted as she waved her battle sword, unleashing countless sword shadows and sword intents. Each of the sword intents were over 10,000 meters long. The entire void was filled with the shadows of her swords. Then, countless sword shadows slashed towards Lu Ming with boundless power. If Lu Ming hadn't broken through to the 6th heaven god realm, Lu Ming would have had to transform into a green-armored ancient god to block this move. But now, Lu Ming didn't need to do that. Divine Dragon Image, Ice Chain. With a thought, Lu Ming cast the 2 secret skills of the Divine Dragon Dharma characteristic and the Ice Chain. Asterisk roar, asterisk a series of dragon cries echoed in the sky. 9 nine-clawed divine dragons flew out and pounced toward the sword shadows that filled the sky. At the same time, 9 ice chains danced around Lu Ming's body like ice dragons. The terrifying coldness almost froze the space around them. Chunks of ice appeared in the air. Boom! Boom! The divine dragon Dharma idol bore the brunt of the attack. It collided with the sword shadows in the sky, causing explosions. However, the 9 divine dragon Dharma idols soon crumbled under the onslaught of sword shadows. Then, the sword shadows slashed at the ice chains, shattering countless ice cubes and causing the ice chains to shake violently. Break the sky, Lu Ming's long spear continued to thrust out. Spear lights flew out like meteors and collided with Lan Ling's sword shadows. The void continued to rumble. After a few minutes, the collision finally stopped. Lu Ming had retreated 1,000 meters, but his breathing was steady. He had successfully blocked Lan Ling's sword shadow. Lan Ling's eyes widened in disbelief. Back in Xingyue ancient city, Lu Ming could only run for his life when he saw her. He might not even be able to withstand one of her moves. But now, Lu Ming could withstand 3 of her moves. Most importantly, she had already used her ultimate move in her last move. Lu Ming's strength had increased too quickly. 3 moves. Lu Ming said faintly. I don't believe that I can't suppress you today. Lan Ling flew into a rage out of humiliation. She shouted and released a terrifying aura. She was about to charge at Lu Ming again. Now, it's my turn. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold as he cast the 9 Heavens Kuan Peng technique. In a flash, he dashed toward Lan Ling. In the process, his body swelled rapidly and he transformed into a green-armored ancient god. Whoosh! The green-armored ancient god was a few hundred meters tall. Compared to him, Lan Ling was like an ant. Lu Ming opened one of his big hands and grabbed Lan Ling. The sky rumbled as his palm reached out. It was extremely terrifying. Divine sword skill, slash. 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 Lan Ling shouted. Her sword shadow soared into the sky and slashed at Lu Ming's palm. However, Lu Ming controlled the ice chain and wrapped his palm to strengthen his defense. With the ice chain and the green scales of the green-armored ancient god as a double defense, Lu Ming was not afraid of Lan Ling's sword shadow at all. Under the big hand, Lan Ling's sword shadow crumbled. Lan Ling's expression changed. She wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The big hand grabbed Lan Ling. Lan Ling struggled desperately, but Lu Ming controlled his divine power and poured it into Lan Ling's body. Lan Ling gasped and felt that the divine power in her body was almost shattered. She felt weak all over. In this way, she was firmly controlled by Lu Ming and could not resist. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could completely suppress Lan Ling after transforming into a green-armored ancient god. After controlling Lan Ling, Lu Ming's body quickly shrank and turned back to normal. He trapped Lan Ling with an ice chain. Let me go, let me go. Lan Ling shouted and struggled frantically, but it was useless. She could not break free at all. Let you go? You tried to kill me again and again in Star Crescent Ancient City. I saved you later, but you tried to kill me again just now. Tell me, do you think I will let you go? Lu Ming sneered and walked step by step to Lan Ling's side. Then, what do you want to do? Lan Ling gritted her teeth and said. What do I want to do? What do you think? Lu Ming laughed and looked at Lan Ling's body. You, pervert, don't even think about it. Let me tell you, my father is definitely watching us. Do you dare? Lan Ling shouted. Your father? Your father can't wait for me to do you on the spot. Lu Ming said indifferently. On Star Peak, in Blue Merchant's courtyard, Blue Merchant had just taken a sip of tea and spat it out. This little guy, what are you talking about? Blue Merchant muttered, feeling a little embarrassed. That's right, everything that happened between Lu Ming and Lan Ling was under Blue Merchant's attention. However, Lu Ming was right. If Lu Ming really wanted to do Lan Ling, he would be more than happy to do so. You, nonsense. Lan Ling stared at Lu Ming with hatred. But don't worry, I'm not interested in you. Lu Ming said indifferently, causing Lan Ling to grit her teeth. For some reason, she felt uncomfortable in her heart. Lu Ming was not interested in her. Was her attractiveness that bad? It had to be said that women had strange thoughts. However, punishment is unavoidable. If I don't teach you a lesson, I'll feel uncomfortable. Lu Ming smiled, then took a step forward, stretched out his hand, and slapped Lan Ling's perky butt. Slap. A crisp sound could be heard. Lan Ling's body stiffened all of a sudden. The expression on her face was also like that of a person staring blankly at Lu Ming. What are you looking at? The feeling is not bad, again. After saying that, Lu Ming slapped her again. Slap. Another crisp sound was heard. This time, Lan Ling finally reacted, and a scream was heard in the sky. Lu Ming, I'm going to kill you. Lan Ling's face was red, even her ears and neck were red. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws, wishing that she could tear Lu Ming into pieces. You're still so fierce. Seems like I haven't taught you a lesson yet, again. Lu Ming continued to slap her. Slap. 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 This time, 3 consecutive sounds were heard, causing Lan Ling's body to stiffen completely. Her face was so red that it was about to bleed. Chapter 3077. After being slapped by Lu Ming 3 times in a row, Lan Ling's face and neck turned red as if blood was about to drip out. Her body trembled slightly, and her eyes were wide open. She wished she could eat Lu Ming. Lu Ming. You still dare to stare? Try staring again. Lu Ming curled his lips. Lan Ling was still glaring at him. Sigh, it doesn't feel good to hit you through your pants. Take them off and hit me. Lu Ming waved his hand and muttered. Lan Ling didn't dare to stare at him anymore. She cried out, no, don't, when she thought that Lu Ming was really going to take off his pants. She really wanted to die. You're finally begging for mercy. Come, tell me. Do you still dare to hit or kill me when you see me in the future? Lu Ming asked. No, I don't dare anymore. Under Lu Ming's abuse, Lan Ling finally gave in. Although she wanted to chop Lu Ming into pieces, she really didn't dare to be brave under such circumstances. Until now, her father, Blue Merchant, hadn't appeared. She knew that Blue Merchant deliberately didn't appear. He wanted to matchmake her and Lu Ming. She couldn't count on Blue Merchant. She felt like crying. How could a father be like this? He couldn't wait to marry her to someone else. It wasn't like no one wanted her. That's more like it. Behave yourself in the future. I, Lu Ming, am also a gentleman. I won't make things difficult for you. Lu Ming chuckled. With a wave of his hand, the ice shackles were put away. After all, Lan Ling was Blue Merchant's daughter. It was fine to teach her a lesson, but it wouldn't be good to go too far. Lan Ling gritted her teeth. She despised Lu Ming and scolded Lu Ming thousands of times in her heart. How could a person like Lu Ming have the nerve to call himself a gentleman? However, Lan Ling didn't dare to make a move now. Because she was no match for Lu Ming. Lu Ming, I'll remember this. When I break through to the Divine King realm, I'll definitely get back at you. Lan Ling swore in her heart. Let's go. Lu Ming said. He stepped into the air and continued to head toward the courtyard where he was staying. Lan Ling followed behind him obediently. In Blue Merchant's courtyard. Hee, they're starting to flirt, a good sign. Lan Shang let out a few sneaky laughs. If Lan Ling saw Lan Shang's expression, she would probably vomit blood. Not long after, Lu Ming and Lan Ling arrived outside Lu Ming's courtyard. Young master. In the courtyard, Autumn Moon was practicing her sword. When she saw Lu Ming, she immediately flew out. Autumn Moon, how's your cultivation going? Lu Ming greeted her with a smile. I'm much more familiar with it. I believe I'll be able to fully control it soon. This lady is... Autumn Moon looked at Lan Ling. Autumn Moon recognized Lan Ling. When they left Xingyue Ancient City, Lan Ling had been staring coldly at Lu Ming. Autumn Moon even teased Lu Ming. Now that she saw Lu Ming and Lan Ling returning together, she was naturally curious. I'm Lan Ling. Before Lu Ming could speak, Lan Ling stepped out and said coldly. Then, she stared at Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, I can follow you. But you must chase her away. After saying that, she pointed at Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon was slightly stunned and revealed a curious look. Lu Ming frowned. Are you crazy? Autumn Moon is my wife. Why should I chase her away? Because she's your wife. That's why you want to chase her away. Lan Ling gritted her teeth. You're crazy. If you don't want to come, then leave. Lu Ming waved his hand and ignored Lan Ling clang. Lan Ling unsheathed her sword. A powerful aura pressed down on Autumn Moon. Boom! Lu Ming stepped out and the void shook. The powerful aura directly defeated Lan Ling's aura. Seems like I haven't taught you a lesson yet. Lu Ming stared at Lan Ling, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. He didn't care much about attacking him. But to attack Autumn Moon, that was unacceptable. No matter who the other party was, he wouldn't go easy on them. Seeing Lu Ming's expression, Lan Ling was shocked. But as stubborn as she was, she wouldn't back down. Lu Ming, you have to understand what you're going to do in the future. You're going to do great things. The enemies you're going to face are extremely powerful. So, the people around you can't be useless. They can't be a burden to you. Do you understand? Lan Ling said coldly. Her meaning was obvious. Autumn Moon wasn't qualified to stay by Lu Ming's side. Get lost. Go back and tell Blue Merchant that I don't need you here. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Lu Ming, you, Lan Ling was furious. Since young, no one had treated her like this. She was an outstanding beauty. Any man who saw her would be obedient to her. Lu Ming was an exception. Young master, since this lady wants to test Autumn Moon's strength, let her try. At this moment, Autumn Moon spoke. She stepped out and landed in front of Lu Ming. Autumn Moon was actually arrogant. It was just that she kept her arrogance in front of Lu Ming. But that didn't mean that others could humiliate her and look down on her. Especially in front of Lu Ming. They thought that she wasn't qualified to stay by Lu Ming's side. So, Autumn Moon decided to make a move. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he didn't stop her. He naturally understood Autumn Moon's temper. Moreover, Autumn Moon was no longer the same as before. If they fought, she might not lose to Lan Ling. Alright, be careful then. Lu Ming reminded. Autumn Moon nodded. She faced Lan Ling and said, Lady, please make your move. Just do your best. Very good. Then let me see how capable the woman that Lu Ming likes is. Lan Ling gritted her teeth and unleashed her cultivation to the extreme. She didn't know why, but when she saw that Lu Ming treated Autumn Moon so well, she felt an inexplicable discomfort in her heart. She couldn't wait to defeat Autumn Moon and prove that she was stronger than Autumn Moon. Swoosh! Lan Ling made her move. A sword shadow slashed out violently, causing the air to explode. However, at the instant when Lan Ling made her move, Autumn Moon also made her move. Autumn Moon's weapon was a scimitar. When the scimitar slashed out, the blade light was as dazzling as the moon. Clang! The blade light and the sword shadow slashed together, causing endless blade light and sword light. After a loud sound, the two figures retreated more than 10 steps. The two of them were evenly matched in the first exchange. Autumn Moon was still fine, but Lan Ling's eyes were filled with shock. She had never expected Autumn Moon to be so powerful. Autumn Moon was only a 9th-level heavenly god. Not only had she awakened the origin source divine power, but she could also block her attack. This aroused her competitiveness even more. Again! Lan Ling shouted. She circulated her divine power to the extreme and performed her ultimate move, the divine sword art. Swoosh! 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 Terrifying sword shadows burst out one after another, slashing toward Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon let out a long roar. 9-colored light spread out from her body and combined with her blade technique, turning into rays of blade light to counterattack. The intense battle between the two peerless beauties in the air immediately alarmed the people in the other courtyards. Chapter 3078. Many figures flew out from the courtyards. When they saw the battle between Autumn Moon and Lan Ling, they were dumbfounded. The battle between the two beauties was not only pleasing to the eye, but also terrifying. Nestle, such terrifying strength. Origin Divine Force Factor, both of them have awakened their Origin Divine Force Factor. Gosh, aren't they too powerful? Who are they? They're so beautiful. I know, it's a woman who seems to be the new member, Lu Ming. She entered Xingyue Ancient City and passed the Gate of Heaven. It can't be, she was only a level 2 heavenly god then. Now she's a level 9 heavenly god. How did she cultivate? What a monster. Without a doubt, Qiu Yu's cultivation shocked everyone. It was truly shocking. Some even suspected that Autumn Moon had cultivated some kind of cultivation technique to hide her cultivation. When she entered Xingyue Ancient City, she had hidden her cultivation. Above Star Peak, in a place closer to the peak of Star Peak, there were some courtyards where the prodigies of the Starry Sky Camp lived. However, the cultivation of these geniuses was even more terrifying. Many of them had reached the Divine King realm. They were the most terrifying group of geniuses in the Starry Camp. However, these people were also shocked. They flew out of their courtyards and watched from afar. What a beautiful woman. She's so powerful. These people were shocked when they saw it. They were a great threat to them since they had such strength below the Divine King realm. Clang! 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 Autumn Moon and Lan Ling were still fighting. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. Although Autumn Moon's cultivation was weaker, only at level 9 heavenly god, she had mastered many kinds of divine force, which made up for her lack of cultivation. However, Qiu Yu's understanding of divine skills was not as good as Lan Ling's. However, Qiu Yu had the 9 orifices Sacred Heart's 9-color divine light, which would greatly increase Qiu Yu's attacking power. For a moment, the two of them were evenly matched. Autumn Moon was not very familiar with the control of divine power. As the battle progressed, Autumn Moon became more and more familiar with the control of divine power. He became more and more adept at using it, and his strength also became stronger. In the end, Autumn Moon slowly gained the upper hand. How could this be? At this moment, Lan Ling was extremely shocked. Autumn Moon's strength was beyond her expectations. Not only could she fight with her, but she also had the upper hand. What hurt her the most was that Autumn Moon's cultivation base was only at the 9th level of the celestial god realm. Lan Ling had always been invincible among those at the same level as her. There were very few who could fight with her at the same level, not to mention those whose cultivation was lower than her. Her self-confidence had suffered a severe blow. God-killing light. Suddenly, Autumn Moon muttered and unleashed the light of destruction. Autumn Moon infused the light of destruction onto her curved blade and slashed out. Clang! The slash landed on Lan Ling's battle sword, causing it to tremble violently. The sword chi on it was dispersed. Lan Ling's delicate body trembled and she was sent flying. She only managed to stop after flying for 10,000 meters. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. You've lost. Autumn Moon did not continue to pursue. She stood in the air and spoke in a clear voice. Lan Ling's face was extremely ugly. She bit her lips and tears welled up in her eyes. She had previously doubted that Autumn Moon was qualified to be by Lu Ming's side. Reality had proven that Autumn Moon was more qualified than her. I've lost, but I'll definitely defeat you in the future. Lan Ling said before turning around to leave. She was too ashamed to stay any longer. Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief when Lan Ling left. If Lan Ling insisted on staying in his courtyard, he would have a headache. Young master, it seems like there's another pretty lady who has her eyes on you. Autumn Moon came to Lu Ming's side and smiled. Why? Are you jealous? Lu Ming teased. Autumn Moon blushed and said, No way. Young master is so outstanding. There must be a lot of girls who like you. As long as Autumn Moon can be by young master's side, I'll be satisfied. Lu Ming felt warm in his heart. He held Autumn Moon's hand and walked into the courtyard. After that, it was another battle. After that, Lan Ling did not come again. Lu Ming was happy to be free. He went into seclusion to cultivate and comprehend the Overlord spear art. In the east of the starry camp, there was a place filled with divine energy. Many luxurious palaces were built in this place. This place was the headquarters of the Jin family in the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. In one of the palaces, the head of the Jin family and a few other experts of the Jin family were discussing something. The atmosphere in the palaces was tense. The head of the Jin family was emitting a cold aura. I've only been in seclusion for a while, and such a big thing happened. Tell me, who killed Jin Xing? Who has the guts to kill the genius of the Jin family? The head of the Jin family said in a low voice. His voice seemed to contain a terrifying storm. Jin Xing, as one of the 4 heroes of the Jin family, had a bright future. But now, he was killed in the starry camp. It would be strange if he was not angry. In front of the head of the Jin family, the proud Jin Yuan did not even dare to breathe loudly. Head of the Jin family, the one who killed Jin Xing is someone called Lu Ming. Jin Yuan answered honestly. Lu Ming? Which force is he from? The 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence, not the Lu family. The head of the Jin family asked. He's not from any family. He's from the Qin Tian star field. Jin Yuan said. How could someone from the Qin Tian star field kill Jin Xing? And why didn't you kill that kid to avenge Jin Xing's death? The head of the Jin family stared coldly at Jin Yuan. Jin Yuan trembled and broke out in cold sweat. He answered honestly, head of the Jin family, I'm not his match. You're not his match? There's such a powerful genius in the Qin Tian star field? The head of the Jin family was slightly surprised. He's a monster. He's only a level 5 heavenly god, but his combat strength is ridiculously strong. Not only did he defeat me, but he also defeated the other geniuses of the Heavenly God Mansion and obtained a treasure. Jin Yuan immediately told the head of the Jin family about what had happened in the Starry Crescent ancient city. I can't believe such a thing happened. The head of the Jin family and the other experts of the Jin family were stunned when they heard the story. They were really shocked. Monster. He must be a monster with great luck. If we offend someone like him, we must get rid of him. The head of the Jin family said coldly. But he's staying in the starry camp. It's not easy to kill him. An elder of the Jin family frowned. Head of the family, elder, this Lu Ming is close to the Wu family. In the Starry Crescent ancient city, the young master of the winged men, Yi Xiang, offended Lu Ming. Lu Ming has been trying to kill Yi Xiang. During this period, he has been asking the Wu family to gather information about Yi Xiang. This might be a chance, Jin Yuan's eyes turned and suggested. The head of the Jin family's eyes lit up and said, You mean you want to use Yi Xiang to lure Lu Ming out? Chapter 3079. You want to use Yi Xiang to lure Lu Ming out? The Jin family's patriarch stared at Lu Ming. R. A. N. W. N. W. 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 R. A. N. W. E. Nasi. O. M. That's right. If Lu Ming wants to kill Yi Xiang, he will definitely leave the interstellar barracks. At that time, we can arrange a few scapegoats and have a reason to kill him. Jin Yuan replied, his eyes flashing with cold killing intent. All right, let's do that. The Jin family's patriarch laughed. Patriarch, that Lu Ming has also killed a few of the Qin family's sky prides. For this matter, we can drag the Qin family into this. Jin Yuan said. I understand. I will go to the Winged Man clan now. You go and invite the experts of the Qin family to discuss this. In the end, the Jin family's patriarch ordered an elder of the Jin family. The elder of the Jin family received the order and rushed to the Qin family. As for the Jin family's patriarch, he rushed to the Winged Man clan. In fact, a storm had been brewing in the Qin family for the past 2 days. A few of the Qin family sky prides had died in Lu Ming's hands. The higher-ups of the Qin family were furious and wanted to deal with Lu Ming. The arrival of the Jin family naturally hit it off. Immediately, the Qin family's patriarch rushed to the Winged Man clan to discuss how to deal with Lu Ming. In the main hall of the Winged Man clan, the experts of the 3 major clans gathered together to discuss how to deal with a junior. What's your plan? The Winged Man clan's patriarch stared at the Jin family's patriarch and asked. Let Yi Xiang leave the Winged Man clan and walk outside. It's best if he stays in a crowded place and lure Lu Ming to kill him. Once he kills someone, we will have 100 reasons to kill him. Even the interstellar barracks won't be able to protect him. The Jin family's patriarch said coldly. Bang! The Winged Person clan's clan head slammed the table heavily. He stared at the Jin clan's clan head with an unfriendly gaze and said, You mean to say that you want to sacrifice my son, Yi Xiang, and let Lu Ming kill him? Huh, Brother Yi, you've misunderstood. Of course not. Young Master Yi Xiang is only bait. You can arrange for experts to protect him and then arrange for a few unimportant people to be killed by Lu Ming. Wouldn't that be enough? The head of the Jin family laughed. That's more like it. That brat is bent on killing my son. He should be eliminated as soon as possible. The head of the Winged Man clan nodded. Immediately, the heads of the 3 aristocratic families began to discuss the specifics. Lu Ming was completely unaware of all of this. In the following 10-odd days, Lu Ming wholeheartedly comprehended the Overlord Spear Art and finally made great progress. The first stage of the Overlord Spear Art had been successfully cultivated by him. Next, he just needed to slowly nurture it. Then, Lu Ming took out the God of War Strike and studied it carefully. At this moment, Lu Ming's expression changed. He ended his comprehension and a sound transmission jade talisman appeared in his hand. Just now, he felt that someone had sent him a message, so he ended his cultivation. There's news about Yi Xiang. Lu Ming scanned the sound transmission jade talisman with his spiritual sense and his eyes lit up. The one who sent him the message was Wu Ming. Previously, he had asked Wu Ming and the others to inquire about Yi Xiang's whereabouts. Now, he finally got the news. Lu Ming left the courtyard. As expected, he saw Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and Wu Zixiong outside the door. Brothers Wu, where is Yi Xiang? Has he returned to the Starry Sky camp? Lu Ming asked. No. Wu Ming shook his head and said, We found out that Yi Xiang had been holed up in the Winged Person clan for some time. However, he left the Winged Person clan 7 or 8 days ago and has been active in the Soaring Cloud region. The Soaring Cloud region. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. After arriving at the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Manor, Lu Ming naturally did some research on the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Manor. The entire planet was the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Manor. It was extremely vast. However, it was also divided into different regions. For example, the core region of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Manor and the various aristocratic families' headquarters. Other than that, there were some regions where ordinary people gathered or where commercial areas were for consumption. The Soaring Cloud region was a commercial area. There were restaurants, markets, auction houses, brothels, and everything that one could think of. It was extremely prosperous. It was also the region with the most people. Brother Lu, that Yi Xiang had been holed up in the Winged Person clan and did not dare to come out. Then, he suddenly appeared in the Soaring Cloud region and swaggered in and out of various restaurants and brothels. I'm afraid that there's a trap here. We can't act rashly. Wu Zixiong said with a frown. Lu Ming nodded. He had also thought of this point. He wanted to kill Yi Xiang. However, Lu Ming had quite a number of enemies. Perhaps, the other party wanted to kill him too. However, it would be difficult for the other party to make a move in the Starry Sky camp. Perhaps, the other party wanted to lure him out before killing him. Lu Ming's mind was spinning rapidly as he thought of a countermeasure. He definitely had to kill Yi Xiang. If he did not kill him, he would not be able to calm down. However, it would depend on how he killed him. How about this? Let's wait a little longer and observe the situation first. Lu Ming said. He was not an impulsive person. Even if he knew that there might be a trap, he would still kill his way in. That's for the best. If there's anything, we'll inform you immediately. Wu Ming said. Thank you very much. Lu Ming cupped his fists and thanked them. You don't have to stand on ceremony. Lu Ming, the family head of the Wu family, already knows about your matter. He said that if you need any help, feel free to ask. The Wu family will definitely do our best to help. Wu Zixiong said. Wu family's patriarch. Lu Ming was slightly stunned. He did not expect that his matter would reach the ears of the Wu family's patriarch. Perhaps, Wu Zifeng had contributed to this. Everyone, please help me thank the Wu family's patriarch. If Lu Ming needs help, I won't be courteous. Lu Ming smiled. Subsequently, Wu Ming and the rest bade farewell. After Wu Ming and the rest left, Lu Ming was about to return to his room. From the direction of the Star Peak, a figure stepped on the air and flew over. If it wasn't Lan Ling, who else could it be? Why are you here again? Didn't I teach you a lesson last time? Lu Ming glanced at Lan Ling and said coldly. Lan Ling was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. She had never been so unwelcome before. Lu Ming, do you think I want to come? It's my father who wants to see you. Lan Ling gritted her teeth and said. Senior Blue Merchant, could it be? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be that Blue Merchant had found a clue from the Dark Knight Devil's storage ring? I've already sent the message. It's up to you whether you want to come or not. After Lan Ling finished speaking, she turned around and left like a proud swan. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He could not be bothered with Lan Ling and followed after her. Soon, Lu Ming came to the Blue Merchant's courtyard for the second time. Senior, did you ask me to come here because you have a clue about the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal? As soon as he saw Blue Merchant, Lu Ming couldn't wait to ask. Yes, I have a clue. Lan Sheng smiled faintly and said, Dark Knight Devil King, sealing a projection into an ordinary divine artifact. That's a good method. After saying that, a simple and unadorned axe appeared in his hand. This axe was only an ordinary high-grade divine artifact. Sealed in this axe? Lu Ming was surprised. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3080. Looking at the axe in Blue Merchant's hand, Lu Ming was surprised. W. R. N. Wayna This was indeed an axe from the Eventide Demon King's storage ring. Lu Ming had checked it a few times before, but he did not find anything. Look. Blue Merchant said. Then, the axe floated in the air. Blue Merchant's fingers kept drawing runes and they flew into the axe. Buzz. The axe vibrated slightly, and runes appeared on its surface. The runes on the axe intertwined and radiated light. The light formed a projection in the air. That's the Dark Knight Demon King and the Dark Ice Tribe. Lu Ming saw the figure of the Eventide Demon on the projection at one glance. There were a few figures beside the Dark Knight Demon King. They were from the Dark Ice Tribe. Lu Ming had seen the Dark Ice Tribe before. Hence, he could recognize them at a glance. However, both the Dark Knight Demon King and the Dark Ice race were very respectful to these figures. Those figures were covered in black robes and their faces could not be seen clearly. This time, we will arrange it well. We will hide the 9-Ju sacred crystal with the Dark Ice tribe. One of the black-robed figures said. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. They were indeed discussing how to steal the 9-Ju sacred crystal. The members of the Dark Ice race and the Dark Night Devil bowed to him. The few of them discussed for a while, and it was all about the specific matters of stealing the 9 extinction divine crystal. Unfortunately, from beginning to end, they didn't know the identities of the few black-robed people. The 9-Ju sacred crystal is with the Dark Ice tribe. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he was delighted. Although he did not know who was in cahoots with the Dark Ice tribe, he had finally found the whereabouts of the 9-Ju sacred crystal. As long as he destroyed the Dark Ice tribe and took back the 9-Ju sacred crystal, the Qin Tian territory would be safe. Lu Ming, what are you going to do? Blue Merchant asked. What am I going to do? Of course, I will take this projection and make it public. Lu Ming said. That's easy. Maybe we can plan to lure out the forces that are in cahoots with the Dark Ice tribe and kill them all. Blue Merchant said with a smile. Lure out the mastermind? I want to do that too. But what can we do? Lu Ming asked. Well, you'll have to figure it out yourself. I'm just suggesting. Lan Shang chuckled. He was simply like an old fox. Lu Ming was speechless. However, his eyes lit up the next moment as he thought of a solution. When Lu Ming first came to the 9-Ju Heavenly King Mansion, he was intercepted by a group of people. Now that he thought about it, the other party must have guessed that there was evidence in the storage ring of the Dark Knight Demon King. However, they probably did not know what the evidence is Ju's Ju. Perhaps they didn't know that the evidence left by the Night Devil only exposed the Dark Ice race, but not the person behind it. The Dark Knight Demon King was in a hurry to kill Lu Ming and take away the evidence. Based on that, he could use the evidence to lure the Dark Knight Demon King out or blackmail the Dark Knight Demon King into admitting it himself. Moreover, Lu Ming suspected that the mastermind might be the Jin family or the Qin family. Since Lu Ming came to the Starry Camp, he was targeted by the two families. They wanted to kill him. Maybe they wanted to kill him and take away the Dark Knight Demon King's Ju's Ju. Then, maybe I can make use of Yi Xiang's incident. Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. Yi Xiang suddenly swaggered outside. Lu Ming suspected that he might have joined forces with the Jin family and the Qin family to lure him out so that they could kill him. Then, could he beat them at their own game and make a big deal out of it? Then, he could blackmail them and make them give themselves away. However, if he wanted to carry out this plan, he must have a strong backing. Otherwise, he would be killed before the plan could be carried out. At the thought of this, Lu Ming told Lan Shang about Yi Xiang and his plan. Not bad, not bad. This is a good plan. After hearing that, Lan Shang nodded continuously. He looked at Lu Ming with increasing satisfaction. To be able to come up with such a plan in such a short period of time was not something an ordinary person could do. If he wanted to reverse Jing Yu's case, he not only needed strength, he also needed brains. Without brains, he would not be able to go far. Alright, let's carry out this plan. Your safety will be in the hands of your uncle Lan Shu. Blue Merchant smiled confidently. However, if you want to make a big deal out of this, I alone won't be enough. Don't you have a good relationship with the Wu family? You can borrow their strength. Then, Lan Shang reminded him again. All right. Lu Ming nodded his head and discussed the details of the plan with Blue Merchant. Then, they left the place. After that, Lu Ming found Wu Ming and Wu Yu and told them about his plan. All right, leave this to us. We'll send a message to young Master Zifeng. Wu Ming said. Immediately, Wu Ming sent a message to Wu Zifeng. Soon, Wu Ming received a reply. Brother Lu, don't worry. The family head has said that he'll help you. If necessary, the family head will do it himself. Wu Ming said. Thank you. Lu Ming was overjoyed. With the help of the Wu family, this plan could be carried out smoothly. Yi Xiang, I'll take your life. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Soaring Cloud District was the largest commercial district in the 9-extinction Heavenly King residence. The streets were crisscrossed and there were shops everywhere. A large number of people gathered here and it was extremely prosperous. The Inn in the Clouds was the largest restaurant in the Soaring Cloud District. It was also a place of romance. The Inn in the Clouds, as its name suggested, floated in the clouds all year round and was very large. Those who drank here would be accompanied by young and beautiful ladies. Moreover, the wine and delicacies were also top-notch. Naturally, it attracted a large number of customers. The Inn in the Clouds had 3 floors and was very large. There were luxurious tables and chairs placed everywhere and almost all of them were filled with customers. On one of the tables, Yi Xiang was drinking with a few friends. Beside them, there was a beautiful lady accompanying them. Yi Xiang hugged a young lady and his evil claws wandered around her body, causing the lady to giggle. Ha ha ha, come, beauty, have a drink with me. Yi Xiang laughed loudly and raised his wine cup, asking the lady to drink. Since it's young master Yi Xiang's wine, I won't stand on ceremony. The lady took the wine cup and drank it in one gulp. Good alcohol tolerance. Yi Xiang clapped his hands and praised without restraint. However, from time to time, there would be a sharp glint in the depths of his eyes as he glanced around. Lu Ming, I hope you can appear. Once you appear, it'll be your death. Yi Xiang roared in his heart and his killing intent was boundless. Previously, he was afraid of Lu Ming and hid in the Winged Man clan. He did not even dare to return to the Starry Camp. This matter had become a joke to him. He hated Lu Ming to the bone. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 advertisements, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3081. This time, Yi Xiang swaggered into the Soaring Cloud area to lure Lu Ming out. Once Lu Ming came out, it would be his death. However, it had been a few days and Lu Ming had yet to appear. This made him anxious. This guy keeps saying that he wants to kill me, but he doesn't dare to appear. He's also a good-for-nothing. Humph, but this good-for-nothing woman is really beautiful. If there's a chance, I must get my hands on that woman and have fun with her. Yi Xiang had vicious thoughts in his mind. At the thought of Autumn Moon's peerless beauty and perfect expression, there was a raging flame in his eyes. Compared to Autumn Moon, he suddenly felt that the beauty in his arms was simply ordinary. There was no comparison at all. They were heaven and earth. Thud thud thud, at this moment, unhurried footsteps could be heard from the staircase. It spread throughout the entire 3rd floor. Many people looked at the staircase curiously. This was the 9 Extremes Heavenly King residence. Even the weakest person was at the virtual god realm. Those who had reached this realm would not have any footsteps. But now, someone was walking with such well-proportioned footsteps. Obviously, it was done on purpose and naturally attracted the attention of others. Soon, a young man appeared from the staircase and walked slowly to the 3rd floor. Lu Ming. Seeing this young man, Yi Xiang's eyes lit up and he slowly uttered 2 words. That's right. The young man who walked up from the staircase was Lu Ming. Lu Ming walked up to the 3rd floor step by step. His gaze was fixed on Yi Xiang. He then stepped forward and a cold murderous intent filled the air and suppressed Yi Xiang. Yi Xiang, you're finally not hiding in the Winged Man family anymore. Very good. Today will be the day you die. Lu Ming said coldly. His voice was icy cold. In the restaurant, many people's hearts were shaken, and a commotion broke out. Who is this guy? He wants to kill Yi Xiang. Yi Xiang is the young master of the Winged Man family. This guy is really audacious. He doesn't want to live anymore. Moreover, Yi Xiang's cultivation is extremely shocking. Judging from this guy's aura, his cultivation is not high. He wants to kill Yi Xiang. He's overestimating himself. Just watch, there's going to be a good show. Everyone in the restaurant was discussing animatedly, as if they wanted to watch a good show. How dare you? Brat, what did you say? Before Yi Xiang could open his mouth, a young man in his 30s suddenly slammed the table and stood up. A berserk aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Half-step Divine King Realm. This young man, who seemed to be in his 30s, was a half-step Divine King. This brat wants to kill young Master Yi Xiang. Looks like he's tired of living. Another young man at the side said coldly. He looked to be in his 30s. However, these young men were too old to join the Starry Barracks, thus they were unaware of Lu Ming's achievements. Otherwise, they would not dare to speak in such a manner. Lu Ming, you want to kill me? Yi Xiang said indifferently. He continued to drink his wine with a calm expression. He was waiting for Lu Ming to come, so naturally, he wasn't flustered at all. Nonsense. How dare you touch my, Lu Ming's, woman? Your ending is already decided. Lu Ming said coldly. Then, he took a step forward, his killing intent becoming even more intense. Swoosh. Suddenly, a young man appeared in front of Lu Ming. His berserk aura pressed down on Lu Ming. I'm talking to you. Can't you hear me? The young man said ferociously. Get lost if you don't want to die. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Brat, what did you say? You're courting death. The young man shouted coldly. He bent his fingers into a claw and clawed at Lu Ming's head. The moment he clawed, the young man's claw turned golden. The claw pierced through the air, producing a terrifying whistling sound. Gene family. Hee hee. Looks like you're trying to lure me out. Lu Ming sneered in his heart and threw out a punch. Roar. Lu Ming's fist let out a dragon's roar. Then, a 9-clawed dragon pounced out and clashed with the young man's claw. In the next moment, the young man let out a miserable shriek. Because his claw had exploded. The 9-clawed dragon did not stop there. It pounced on the young man and tore his body apart with its claw. The young man from Gene family had fallen. There was a brief silence in the restaurant. Many people revealed shocked expressions. They did not expect Lu Ming to be so powerful. He killed a half-step Divine King with just a wave of his hand. Lu Ming, how dare you kill someone? You're courting death. Go and kill him together. Yi Xiang shouted angrily. Of course, he was pretending to be angry. He was happy that Lu Ming had killed someone. The people around him were originally sent to their deaths. Lu Ming had killed someone. They had 100 reasons to kill Lu Ming. The Starry Sky Battalion had nothing to say. Kill. Kill this brat. Beside Yi Xiang, another 3 young men roared. Violent auras exploded as they charged towards Lu Ming. The 3 of them did not know about Yi Xiang's plan. When they saw that Lu Ming dared to kill one of their men, they were enraged and charged towards Lu Ming. You're courting death. Lu Ming said indifferently. A long spear appeared in his hand. The long spear trembled and rays of spear light burst out. Puff. 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 The 3 rays of spear light easily destroyed their attacks and pierced through their foreheads. The 3 young experts were killed instantly. Yi Xiang, it's your turn now. Lu Ming stared coldly at Yi Xiang. His long spear trembled and another ray of spear light pierced towards Yi Xiang. At this moment, there was only one young man left beside Yi Xiang. This young man looked to be in his 30s. He had a pair of wings on his back. Like Yi Xiang, he was also a lightning-winged man. At this moment, the young man moved. In a flash, he appeared in front of Yi Xiang. One of his wings swept out like a blade. Boom! The wings slashed onto Lu Ming's spear light and destroyed Lu Ming's spear light. Boom! Then, a violent aura emitted from the young man's body. The restaurant was immediately shrouded by a terrifying pressure. It's a divine king. Second divine king realm. Some people exclaimed. This young man was at the second divine king realm. Indeed, there are experts around him. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to kill Yi Xiang this time. Indeed, there were experts around him. Lu Ming, how dare you kill people in broad daylight? This time, even the Starry Sky Camp can't protect you. Yi Xiang finally stood up and shouted at Lu Ming while pointing at him. That's right. You killed people of the Jin family for no reason. You deserve to die. At this moment, a voice came from the second floor. The restaurant in the clouds had 5 floors. The voice came from the 4th floor. Before he finished speaking, a figure flashed and a group of people appeared beside Yi Xiang. The leader wore a golden robe and had a handsome and cold face. He was one of the 4 heroes of the Jin family, Jin Yuan. There were a few middle-aged men beside Jin Yuan. Their auras were as strong as mountains. Chapter 3082. Jin Yuan appeared beside Yi Xiang with a few burly men and stared coldly at Lu Ming. You've finally shown up? Lu Ming said in a low voice, the corners of his lips curling into a cold smile. Seeing Jin Yuan, Lu Ming knew that he had guessed correctly. The other party had set this up on purpose to bait him. Looks like you've been waiting for me here. Lu Ming said indifferently. Lu Ming, you killed the Jin clan's men for no reason and even wanted to kill Yi Xiang. How audacious. What do you think the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence is? Why don't you surrender now? Are you waiting for us to make a move? Jin Yuan shouted coldly with a cold smile. Those men were from the Jin clan, but their talents were average. They were pushed out by the Jin clan to let Lu Ming kill them. Lu Ming killed them first, so no one would say anything if they killed Lu Ming, even if Lu Ming was from the Starry Camp. As expected, Lu Ming had fallen into their trap. Everything was going according to their plan. Jin Yuan, since you're shouting so loudly, then come and take me. Let's see if a loser like you can take me down. Lu Ming looked at Jin Yuan indifferently with a mocking expression. As soon as these words were spoken, it caused the others in the restaurant to be surprised. What does Lu Ming mean? Did he defeat Jin Yuan before? It can't be. Jin Yuan is known as one of the 4 heroes of the Jin clan. He awakened his origin source divine power factor long ago. Can Lu Ming defeat Jin Yuan? It's possible. Otherwise, why would Lu Ming say that? The people in the restaurant discussed animatedly as they looked at Jin Yuan and Lu Ming. Jin Yuan's face was extremely gloomy and his killing intent was extremely strong. Lu Ming, now is not the time to fight with you alone. You killed the Jin clan's men. It's time for you to pay with your life. Men, take him down. Jin Yuan waved his hand. Boom. Beside Gold Ingot, a burly man stepped out, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. He was a First King God Realm warrior. His aura was as thick as a mountain. His skin glowed with a golden light as if he was made of gold. Boom! The Jin clan's godly king sent a palm strike towards Lu Ming. The void trembled violently as a violent energy surged towards Lu Ming like a tidal wave. As soon as he made his move, Lu Ming sensed that although this godly monarch of the Jin family had a similar cultivation base as the Dark Knight Demon King, his combat strength was definitely above the Dark Knight Demon King's. In an instant, all of Lu Ming's divine power erupted from his body, and he activated the battle character's secret art to quadruple his combat strength. Moon slaying. A low shout came from Lu Ming's mouth. Then, a crescent-shaped spear light violently chopped out. Clang! The crescent-shaped spear light collided with the Jin clan's godly king's palm, creating a dull explosion. At the point of impact, the energy swept out in all directions like a tidal wave. The entire restaurant trembled. However, in the next moment, the walls and floor of the restaurant glowed with colorful lights. Dense runes appeared, blocking the energy waves that spread out in all directions. As the largest restaurant in the soaring cloud district, the restaurant in the clouds had an extraordinary background. It was supported by a powerful force, and the entire restaurant was a treasure. It was covered with great arrays, so it wasn't afraid of a great battle. However, the expensive tables and chairs next to the two of them were not protected by great arrays. They were crushed by the energy waves of the two of them. The other people in the restaurant were forced to retreat. However, there were also experts among them. There were quite a few godly kings. They circulated their divine power and blocked the aftershock of Lu Ming's attack. Buzz! The spear in Lu Ming's hand vibrated continuously. A powerful energy surged out, causing Lu Ming's body to float backwards. On the other hand, Godly King's body only swayed slightly before he stabilized himself. Without transforming into his ancient god body, Lu Ming was slightly at a disadvantage in a head-on battle. However, this also shocked the others. Now, many people had seen through Lu Ming's cultivation. Lu Ming was only a 6th-layer heavenly god. It was unbelievable that a 6th-layer heavenly god could fight a 1st-layer godly king. Die. After pushing Lu Ming back, the Jin clan's godly king immediately launched a fierce attack. His golden palm broke through the air, attacking Lu Ming like a storm. However, Lu Ming didn't want to face him head-on. He used the 9 Heavens Kunpeng art. A 9 Heavens Kunpeng appeared on his body. With a flash, Lu Ming charged towards Yi Xiang. This time, he had to kill Yi Xiang. Whoosh! Lu Ming's speed was astonishing. He charged towards Yi Xiang like a bolt of lightning. Before he arrived, a spear light had already shot towards Yi Xiang. Save me! Yi Xiang was shocked. Beside Yi Xiang, the Winged Men clan's godly king was already prepared. He flapped his lightning wings and slashed towards Lu Ming's spear light like a sharp blade. He shattered Lu Ming's spear light. However, 9 ice chains immediately shot towards Yi Xiang like dancing snakes. You're courting death. The Winged Men clan's godly king roared furiously. He unleashed a powerful aura and his body was covered in lightning. Boom! 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 Bolts of lightning as thick as an arm shot out from his body and bombarded the ice chains. A series of explosions could be heard as the 9 ice chains exploded one after another. In an instant, the 9 ice chains had all exploded and turned into streams of cold air that dissipated into the air. The Winged Men clan's godly king was a 2nd-layer godly king expert. A 2nd-layer godly king was extremely powerful. He was much stronger than a 1st-layer godly king. As the saying went, those with a higher rank could crush a person to death. This sentence was also suitable to describe the godly king realm. In the godly king realm, if one's cultivation base was 1 layer higher, he would have an absolute advantage. Even a genius with divine grade divine power would find it difficult to fight against someone with a higher rank. Only some monstrous geniuses could do so. Therefore, no matter how tough the ice chains were, they would be shattered by his attack. Die. Then, the Winged Men clan's godly king shouted coldly. He pressed his palm down and lightning bolts shot towards Lu Ming. However, just as the Winged Men clan's godly king made his move, Lu Ming's body flashed and he dashed towards the other side. This time, he wasn't going to attack Yi Xiang, but Jin Yuan. Yes, this time, Lu Ming was going to attack Jin Yuan. In reality, the reason he attacked Yi Xiang just now was just a facade. His real target was Jin Yuan. In the process of dashing out, Lu Ming's body swelled rapidly. Lu Ming was transforming into his ancient god body. Strangely, the height of the 3rd floor of the restaurant was only a dozen meters. However, as Lu Ming's body grew rapidly, the height of the restaurant also increased rapidly. In the end, it reached a height of a few hundred meters. Its length and width also increased by a few times. Conflicts often broke out in the restaurant above the clouds. There were even fights between people of different races and different sizes. Therefore, the entire restaurant above the clouds was a treasure. Not only was it covered with formations, but it could also change its size at will. Buzz. After transforming into his ancient god body, Lu Ming's fighting strength skyrocketed. He swept his long spear towards Jin Yuan. Before the long spear reached him, the terrifying energy wave had already caused Jin Yuan's expression to change drastically. Chapter 3083. Void-Shattering Hand. The Jin family god king who had fought with Lu Ming shouted. His hand glowed as he used the Void-Shattering Hand to attack Lu Ming. Dong! Their attacks collided once again. This time, the shockwaves were even more terrifying as they swept out in all directions. Then, a figure retreated violently, vomiting blood. This time, it was the Jin family god king who retreated. The Jin family god king was in the first layer of the king god realm. Although he was slightly stronger than the Dark Knight Devil King, it was not by much. Before Lu Ming transformed into his ancient god body, he was at a disadvantage. Once he transformed into his ancient god body, his fighting strength completely surpassed his opponent. What? Upon seeing this sight, the crowd widened their eyes in shock. The strength Lu Ming had displayed before was already terrifying. But now, Lu Ming's strength could only be described as shocking. He had injured a god king in one move. After injuring his opponent, Lu Ming continued to step forward. His violent aura swept towards Jin Yuan like a storm. Jin Yuan's face changed drastically, becoming extremely ugly. Lu Ming's ability had improved tremendously compared to when he was in Xingyue Ancient City. This simply made him envious and jealous. Kill. Kill him for me. Let's attack together. Jin Yuan shouted. Kill. Kill. The big men by Jin Yuan's side all roared and attacked at the same time, all of them releasing shocking auras. These men were all in the first layer of the King God realm. Their bodies glowed with golden light as they attacked Lu Ming together. Ice chains. Lu Ming's mind stirred, and the 9 ice chains condensed once again. They danced in front of him, blocking the attacks of the few burly men from the Jin family. The first layer of the King God realm could not break the ice chains. After using the ice chains to block their attacks, Lu Ming stared at one of them and attacked ferociously. Moon slashing. Lu Ming shouted, almost using his full strength. His spear chopped down towards one of the big men. Lu Ming was now using all of his strength to execute the moon beheading strike. How astonishing was its power! It instantly pierced through the big man's defense and split his body in half. A god king had fallen. This was considered Lu Ming's first time relying on his own strength to kill a divine king powerhouse. Back then, although Lu Ming had killed the Night Devil King, it was because of Lu Ming's sneak attack. Furthermore, the Night Devil King was heavily injured and was killed by Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming was completely relying on his own strength to kill his opponent. How could this be? This scene caused Jin Yuan and the others to be horrified. Kill! Lu Ming let out a long roar. His imposing manner was like a madman. His long spear vibrated madly as it continuously slashed out. In an instant, Lu Ming used the moon slashing 3 times. 3 crescent-shaped spear lights slashed towards the 3 big men. Although the 3 big men were prepared and did their best to defend, they were still heavily injured. They were sent flying and coughing up blood. For someone like Jin Yuan, his battle strength was enough to fight against a first-layer god king. He could even gain the upper hand. When Lu Ming was in the 5th-layer god realm, he could already crush Jin Yuan. He could even defeat Chu Baxing and the others who were even stronger. Now that Lu Ming had broken through to the 6th-layer god realm, his battle strength was even stronger than when he was in Xingyue Ancient City. It was naturally easy for him to deal with an ordinary 1st-layer god king. Several First Sky of King God Realm guards were killed or severely wounded. Jin Yuan was so scared that he shuddered and retreated hastily. Jin Yuan, die. Lu Ming said coldly. He took a step forward and pressed his long spear down with the momentum of Mount Tai. Jin Yuan was shocked. Just as he was about to use all of his strength to resist, a figure suddenly rushed over from the other side. He stood in front of Jin Yuan, his body emitting a dazzling golden light. Dong! The person threw out a palm and hit the long spear. Lu Ming felt a powerful force coming from the long spear. His body shook violently and he couldn't help but retreat. Second layer God King. Lu Ming squinted his eyes. The person who had attacked him was also a big man. Without a doubt, he was also an expert from the Jin family. The Jin family also had a second layer God King in the restaurant. Second layer God King. Ha ha ha. Kill. Kill that kid. Jin Yuan screamed hysterically. Just now, he was so frightened by Lu Ming that he almost wet his pants. Young Master Jin Yuan, don't worry. Today, he will die for sure. The expert from the Jin family said coldly. He was like a golden man, extremely dazzling. A second layer God King was much stronger than a first layer God King. Although Lu Ming could kill a first layer God King, he was definitely not a match for a second layer God King. A second layer God King against a first layer God King would definitely be killed instantly. There was no suspense. Bang! The expert from the Jin family, who was in the second heaven of the Divine King realm, took a step forward and dashed toward Lu Ming. He threw out a huge palm print toward Lu Ming, causing the void to tremble violently. It was the same void-shattering hand. However, a second layer God King was much stronger than a first layer God King. However, Lu Ming didn't dodge. His body flashed, dashing toward his opponent. He's crazy. A thought flashed across many people's minds. They thought that Lu Ming was crazy. Lu Ming's fighting capacity was obviously not a match for a second layer God King. However, he dared to rush toward his opponent. Wasn't he seeking death? You're courting death. Jin Yuan's eyes flashed ferociously. Die. The second layer God King of the Jin family shouted and his palm strike became stronger. Chio. At this moment, Lu Ming shouted. Then, Chio, who had turned into a bracelet on Lu Ming's wrist, moved. Swoosh. Chio rushed out and turned into a ball. A tentacle extended from its round body and turned into a saber, slashing out. The saber slashed toward the Jin family expert's palm print. The Jin family expert's palm print couldn't withstand a single blow. It was cut in half like a piece of tofu. This scene greatly shocked the Jin family's experts. They were somewhat dumbfounded. His full-powered palm print was extremely powerful. However, it was easily broken by a metal ball. He was stunned and his fate was sealed. Chio dashed toward the Jin family expert like a bolt of lightning. Its saber continued to slash down. Ah! The Jin family expert roared furiously. He had just set up a layer of defense when Chio's saber slashed through it. Swoosh! The Jin family expert's defense was like a piece of paper. His entire body was cut in half and he died on the spot. Chio's strength was terrifying. Even in the King God realm, it could kill opponents with a higher level. Now that Chio had broken through to the second layer God King, it was easy for it to kill someone at the same level. This, Jin Yuan was dumbfounded. His brain turned into paste. He was completely dumbfounded. He had never thought that a second layer God King of the Jin family would be killed just like that. Run! Run! In the next moment, he screamed crazily in his mind. He wanted to retreat and run away. However, how could Lu Ming let him do as he wished? Boom! A huge spear light pressed down on Jin Yuan. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.